This is another episode of the Flight Ringers podcast. I'm David King. That's Dan Spottswood.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
We are professional cartoonists, and we are Legion of Superheroes experts.
Even on the first page, there's something kind of interesting on the DC list of the week. It just shows how clueless DC were sometimes with business decisions. Because if you look to the bottom, Superboy 1 is premiering. It's like the same month that they're like, we're erasing him completely. It's like that's probably the only, I don't know, maybe there was I think there might have been a Filmation Superboy cartoon in the 60s, but other than that, this is the highest Superboy's profile ever was. Right during those years that they were getting rid of him. Self-owned.
What? Cell phone?
Self-own. O-W-N.
Oh.
Yeah, it does sound like
I had no
phone.
idea what you're talking about. Cell phone.
No.
No, they didn't have them back then.
No.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm sure that they thought that this show wouldn't take off or whatever. And maybe it didn't even. Like, what was it, 2 or 3 seasons, I suppose. But it's a syndicated show.
It was 4. Really? But you're probably right, because I looked it up, and like this first issue came out right when the second season came out. So they waited to make sure it like survived before they made the...
By the way, Legion of Superheroes number 4, Keith Giffen, Tom and Mary Bierbaum, Al Gordon are the creative force behind this comic book.
The infamous or famous Legion of Superheroes number 4. I think this is a fan favorite of many a 5 Year Later fan.
It's my favorite one. Probably the first one I read.
Yeah, it's very good. It's got an amazing cover. I mean, I think the cover is part of the reason it's so darn popular. I mean, all of his covers are really great, but there's kind of a sameness to a lot of his covers. And some of that, of course, is because like 3 or 4 of them made like a gatefold, or like they were interconnected. But this one really stands out because it's so basic, and it's got like that bright yellow orange in the background. There's not 1,000 figures on it.
Right. It stands out like he is big. They got Mon-El on the cover, and he takes up the whole thing. Like he's as wide. I mean, his cape is all draped on him, but he looks huge, and his head covers up the logo and stuff.
Yep, and he's very dirty. Lots of wrinkles and splotches on him, and
yeah, the scuzzy stuff that Giffen was really doing on everything.
Right.
There's a really good example of it later in this issue.
Mm-hmm.
The coloring was not prepared for this. I don't think Tom McGraw knows what to do with it exactly when he's coloring it, because he'll just like color along the line, and it looks a little weird, particularly on the cover with the good colors, the good printing.
Do you think he miscolored part of it, or do you think part of the cape there is supposed to be red? Or
no, I don't think that. I just think that like Giffen draws it, and then it's inked as like these. It's like a trail of grime or something kind of. And I think when you look at it in black and white, those kind of that style of marks makes it look like it just adds a different kind of texture, and a shadow. Whereas once you start to color it, it's hard to figure out what to do with that.
Right.
But in black and white, it's just like it adds a different kind of texture to certain parts of the drawing. Right.
In a way, it almost serves a black and white drawing better. Like a lot of European cartoonists, they'll draw like, or they used to, they draw like very simple figures, but then put lots of like stipple and texture and cracks on everything. It kind of, I don't know, breaks up the space better. Kind of gives them volume.
Yeah, and just to show a bunch of different textures, like I'm looking at my black and white note ash can I just made. And like if you look at like this planet right here, it has these kind of, that grungy stuff. And then it's kind of counterbalanced with solid line. And so you'll have a smooth edge, but then this stipply stuff, this grainy, granular stuff makes it look uneven and messy. But it doesn't lend itself to comic book coloring.
You should have printed the cover.
I should have. It was just for note purposes, I guess.
We could slap it in somewhere.
Yeah, I could still do it. Huh?
Or I think I've seen that in black and white on the internet.
Oh.
Maybe just throw that in. This was published on December 12th of 1989. It's got a cover date of February 90. So this was the last Legion issue of the 80s. You already mentioned Keith Giffen, Tom and Mary, Beerbaum, Al Gordon all worked together on the story. I don't know. Should we do the what has gone before or no?
Oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah, we could. What should we do? Is read it?
Well, what do you want to do?
I don't know. Let me actually see what it says. Nah, we don't need to talk about it.
Okay.
This comic stands on its own pretty well, I think. I don't know. If somebody's watching our videos, they saw the other three.
Mm-hmm. So we start out on Talok 8, which is the home of Shadow Lass, or the former Shadow Lass. She's still in mourning over the loss of her husband, Mon-El, who died towards the end of the last series, so about 5 years previous. She's approached by her cousin, Shadow Kid, who lets her know that he has been named her replacement as the planetary protector.
Oh, yeah, it does say protector here.
Right.
Used to always be the planetary champion, right?
She's completely covered.
Yeah, there's actually two. I don't think I ever really caught this, but I must have. Like, there's two women and they look almost identical. Like, there's 3 different people talking on this page.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking to, like, the Mother Superior at the convent or whatever.
It's not really clear, like, do all women cover themselves entirely on this planet? Or is this like a place of mourning where only here do the women completely cover themselves? But
I mean, if we're to think back on past adventures, like, didn't they have this character, Lady Memory, who was, I think, also from Talok 8, but she was green. Like, they have different tribes or something on this planet. And they didn't have this style, this level of whatever world building and culture, whatever specific kind of culture that they showed. But I kind of get the impression that Shadow Lass is kind of, like joined a convent, or like this is some kind of like religious, what would you call it? Like a retreat, a hermit type of lifestyle that she's gone into, just to to hide from society or something.
Right. That's kind of an old movie trope, right? The sad lady runs off and becomes a nun.
Yeah.
Fräulein Maria. I guess she started out a nun too.
Yeah, she began as a nun. She had to break out of the whatever. Right. Grev, Shadow Kid, thinks she'll be mad that they fired her and hired him instead, but she doesn't care.
We last saw him. He was in the academy, right?
Yeah, he was a longtime Legion Academy member.
Those guys are never going to get out of school. Him and, what is that guy's name? Like Power Kid, Power Boy?
Power Boy, yeah. But somewhere along the line, he got killed, and then they brought him back. And I don't remember if it was maybe in the 2000s Levitz ones or something.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like he got blown up somewhere, and then he just showed up again, like they forgot they killed him.
That's okay, because nothing past 1994 counts. That's not canon.
But it might have happened prior to that. It could have happened in the Great Darkness Saga or in Magic Wars or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since I read anything with him. I thought, was he like a jerk, or did he have some adversarial relationship with Shadow Lass early on, or no? Like he wanted her job or spot in the Legion?
I kind of feel like that might have been, part of the reason he exists is because he challenged her to become the planetary champion.
Right.
Here they seem pretty cool towards one another.
Right. Now the situation is reversed. He doesn't want to take it from her, but she's not getting stuff done. All right. So we're in space here. Just going to break it down and say exactly what's happening. This would be too complicated to try to maintain the mystery. I assume anyone listening to this has read it. We're seeing everything from Mon-El's point of view, and he's heading towards Talok 8. We have 3 different dialogue balloon colors, and they represent Mon-El himself. The Time Trapper is the dark or the purple one, and the one that's kind of in the middle is Eltro Gand. And they're kind of arguing with one another.
That's a spoiler, though, isn't it? Have they revealed that it's Eltro Gand yet?
Well, like I said, I'm spoiling it because I assume. Should we try to explain it and keep them all a mystery? I thought it might be too complicated to do it that way.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter.
We can do it that way.
I don't think it would be too complicated, but also why bother? It's a 40-year-old comic book. It's Eltro Gand.
Yeah, we have We have three voices arguing with one another within the head of this mysterious figure heading towards some mysterious planet.
Yeah, this kind of does this pick up from last issue, like the three voices thing,
I don't.
and we kind of know it's Mon-El. Like we know that Mon-El has been reborn or something, right? Like that was on the last page of the previous issue.
Right, like his fist or something burst out of the ground, right?
Yeah, well, it's his gravesite
Yeah,
and
it
it
says
blows up,
Mon-El.
right?
Right.
Yeah. I think it's clear that it's Mon-El and Time Trapper, but then the third guy isn't clear, but like you said, it's Eltro Gand, who we haven't actually seen since 20 years ago in the
Right.
in real lifetime.
Right.
Deep Cut is this Eltro Gand character.
So Mon-El's like a more resolute voice in this, like he's on a mission, to go see his wife and also to defeat the Time Trapper. Meanwhile, Eltro is just kind of a crybaby, very kind of whiny, whimpering guy who's basically begging the Time Trapper, not to take over, I guess. But even Mon-El is sort of Mon-El's coming down on him like, you're pathetic. You can't handle my memories.
Right. Eltro Gand is kind of, I don't totally see the purpose of Eltro Gand except that they had this clever idea and wanted to just stick him in there.
I don't know if this is too early to say, but it seems like part of the purpose was to explain what the fan thought was uncharacteristic behavior from him, like having a temper, I guess, and going nuts every now and then. But I don't know why he can't have those qualities. If you take those out, he's very boring, right? He's just a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
Like, you got to give him some personality.
It would also be really easy to explain why Mon-El has weird personalities because it's traumatic to be in the Phantom Zone for 1,000 years or whatever, and then to get blowed up by the Time Trapper and stuff like he did. It's going to mess you up,
I don't think we need to say there's some weaker personality mixed with him to explain why he freaks out and refuses to go back into the Phantom Zone, after spending 1,000 years there.
But for better or for worse, we got Eltro Gand in the mix with Mon-El and Time Trapper. And so, yeah, this whole page is just so that those guys can talk while Mon-El, I guess, is flying through space towards Talakate. And he goes through space, goes past the moon, goes down through the atmosphere and the clouds.
Right. And also to mention, the Time Trapper says he eliminates his lead vulnerability here. It was like a artificial constraint put upon him.
Oh, okay.
Because presumably he being in his mind wants to use Mon-El as a vessel of some kind, and he doesn't need that limitation anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting that Time Trapper still has so much power when we thought he was totally killed in issue 50 of the previous Legion series a couple of years ago. He's still hanging around, still doing stuff.
And we just looked at that a couple months ago, and I can't remember if there was kind of a last panel that kind of implied some ambiguity, like, is he dead, or was there some...
I can't remember.
Because I kind of remember it like going back to the end of time or something and showing like the wasted landscape. Like maybe there was something that could possibly be interpreted as some vestige of him remains. You know what I mean, right?
I can't remember. Or that's in this issue has that too. So it gets mixed up for me.
Right. So on the next page on the right here, we're back with Shady at her place. You got the mask there in the second panel to sort of communicate that it's the same character, though the coloring doesn't do it any favors. It doesn't really stand out.
But didn't read that was a mask.
It's clearly drawn that way to say this is that character. She's playing some kind of violin-like instrument, and then Mon-El shows up completely naked. I was trying to figure out what this nakedness is about. It's been a long time. Does he just want to get it on real quick before they in the universe? I mean, was he buried naked?
He must have been buried naked. Or maybe when
he's buried on Shanghala, right? Are they all buried naked there? Or is it maybe it's a Daxamite tradition?
Maybe when his grave exploded, it burned all his clothes off.
Okay. This is a running theme in this issue. We'll get to it later. The
What?
Mon-El's nakedness. It comes
Oh,
up
really?
again later.
Oh, I didn't notice. The thing I noticed on this page was the wordless panel in the dead center that shows her severed finger. Like you're not,
Oh.
unless you're really paying attention and remember the last sequence with Shadowlass from issue 53 or whatever
Uh-huh.
of the Baxter series, Legion of Superheroes, you would not remember that she cut off her pinky finger as a wedding ceremony thing with Mon-El. But that's what this panel is. It's emphasizing that she's playing her violin, but she's missing that pinky finger.
I'm really confused about how it's laid out here though, because if it is like a violin, like in panel 3, she's holding she's holding it with her left hand, right?
No, it's the same hand.
Okay, is this her right or left hand in the middle?
It's her left hand.
Okay, that's her left hand.
Yeah, the one with the ring on it is her pinky finger, and it's curled around the neck of the instrument.
Right. Yeah.
And her thumb would be on the other side of that neck, out of view.
Right. It's a really good detail for them to point out. I admit I missed it too, because when I'm just scanning past it, I just read that as a thumb on a right hand.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Now I can't unsee it now, but yeah, that's good that he left that in there. Of course, that was his doing, right?
And it's some of that center panel Frank Santoro shit, I guess, where
that's 12
I've always been
right?
kind of dismissive about that, but like they emphasize it by putting it right in the middle,
right?
And it's not crowded out by any dialogue or text or anything.
Do you have a compass? Let's start drawing circles on here and put like 47 circles and it'll converge.
Like you go this way,
mm-hmm.
and then this away,
right,
and then this way goes through right here,
right,
whatever.
But it does work well on 2 levels, because it's pointing that out, like you said, the missing finger, but it's also kind of like the music. She's playing the music, and it's being played through all the panels, right?
Yeah.
He's ready.
And we'll note that this word balloon that says "I'm really back" is lettered by somebody else. This was a post deadline change.
Really? How do you know that?
Because a different letterer. I can tell by looking it's a different letterer.
You are crazy. Can you really? You can really tell? Sure.
Yeah. Like the letter forms of the capital B is a little squished, and the A is a little squished, and the letters in back are all touching each other.
See, whenever you start talking like this, I get really self-conscious about my own lettering. Like the next time I'm drawing, I'm going to be thinking, somebody looks that closely at letters.
I just catch it. I don't know. There's some other stuff in this issue too where somebody else has done some caption boxes, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You don't catch it, I guess. Maybe this one's different. I don't know. Maybe this one is Todd Klein, and I'm wrong. I don't know.
What about page 5? That has comparable lettering, like in the lower right hand. I pointed that one out because when I went to the first couple pages, like it's written different. It's written more. The letters are smaller and softer, like they're, I don't know, a woman's voice or something.
Where's that?
Oh, and the lettering seems very different on the first page. Like it's much smaller, and like that. The lettering on page 1 looks nothing like this balloon on page 3 that you pointed out. The lettering on page 5 doesn't look that different to me.
But I think it all has to do with like revisions being done on the fly,
right,
with this issue.
All the lettering's a little weird on these pages because there's so much dialogue, I guess. It all looks kind of squashed. Like you may had to draw them a little bit short. The letter form's a little shorter to fit all the dialogue in or something.
Yeah, there's a few places where you can see that they kind of, I don't know, maybe they redrew the balloon to be smaller, and then like the lettering doesn't fit in it quite right.
Right.
This issue maybe isn't the best example of that, but it's in other ones I've noticed.
Well, I don't even know anymore. Were they just pasting the dialogue down at this point?
I don't know. It depends on the. Seems like it depends on the letterer. You
Right.
know. I guess let's flip the page and keep going.
Yeah.
A lot of text on this next page. This is more time trapper stuff. More of in the head of Mon-El.
Well, right. This is taking it to the next level, like because now we have four voices and two conversations.
Right.
So
This is actually from the. It's from like this page is like Mon-El's eyesight.
right.
And this page is the time trapper's eyesight. He has a blurry observation of what Mon-El is seeing and doing.
Oh.
And I think like they're these kind of glowing kind of globules.
Uh-huh.
I think one of them maybe represents Time Trapper and the other one represents Eltrogand, and they're talking while they observe
Right.
the stuff that Mon-El and Shadowlass are doing out in real life.
Oh yeah.
Out in the
Makes sense.
physical world.
On the outside world, Mon-El's giving Shady the 411 on what's going on. About he needs to extract the time trapper from himself or possibly kill himself in order to keep him from taking over the universe, I guess. He seems to be kind of like trying to calm her down, like we don't have time to get it on right now. I'm gonna save the universe. We'll have time for that later. Then we have commentary from the time trapper, who's like completely disgusted by all of this, which further kind of suggests that they're making out to some extent. He's very grossed out by it.
Oh yeah, he says, what's he say? When I'm in charge, I won't allow like the
Right.
touch of human flesh.
It's funny because Giffen, especially since he's come back, maybe starting with like Legionnaires 3 and definitely by issue 50 of the last series, he's really turned this character into a very scary, like kind of omnipotent villain. But here on this page, he kind of sounds like Skeletor again. Like he's a little silly, a little campy.
I mean, even when, like, by that logic, like, even when they're battling him and killing him back in issue 50,
Right.
he still is, like, kind of like this mustache twirling kind of villain, you know?
Right.
Like, he still sounds like that. He still sounds like Cobra Commander or something.
Right,
you know?
right.
Even though he's a very powerful force and can do whatever he wants. You know, like just the fact, like on that other page where he's like, I've decided that Mon-El doesn't need to be killed by lead anymore.
Right.
So to benefit myself, so he can, do whatever he wants. I guess that's a good villain, but it also sounds like one of those villains that the 8-year-olds back in 1963 suggest to Mort as a good villain. It's like, how about a villain who can change anything to whatever he wants, and like, oh, a good one.
Right.
You know?
The time trapper who was like bearing his non-face in his hands when he's being driven crazy by all the baby legionnaires.
Uh-huh,
you remember that? But yeah, here he's like, the first thing I do once I gain absolute control of time and space is no more hanky-panky.
No touching. I don't think they're fooling around on this page. I think they're just talking. And then they must embrace one time, right? Because they don't have time to like fuck.
I'm not saying they're going all the way, but I think she's on him and kissing him and holding him and embracing him, and there's lots of movement going on because he says where does he say it? Like we don't have time to get reacquainted right now. Like it's sort of like he's pushing her back a little.
Uh-huh.
You don't see that?
I do. I'm just imagining what she might be doing, and he's like, "Hold it, we don't have time."
Right.
And she's like,
"You don't show up after 5 years naked and not want to do anything."
Right. I mean, yeah, Giffen doesn't show us what he has below the belt. Maybe if we knew, we'd know like what Shadowlass is up against and what she has to resist.
Right.
But then at the end, he's like, "Let's go, Shady."
It's like, we're gonna go see the nerd, don't we?
Oh.
And inside the time trapper Eltro conversation, we get a little bit more of a rationalization for his being there, like his personality being merged in is kind of a wedge that kind of weakens Monel's mental fortitude. He was worried that his weapon was becoming strong enough to resist him.
I guess in a way, then that's a way to explain why Eltro is there. Is that
Right.
Time Trapper put him there,
Right.
right? Like all of
Right.
that is a machination by the Time Trapper to make Monel weaker. Like he's got to have Monel there available in case
Right.
Time Trapper needs a backdoor exit.
Well, right. This, in a way, is taking some of the stuff Levitt's laid out and expanding it because, like, everyone, not just Superboy, is like a puppet in a sense. Like, everyone in this universe and everything that's happened to the Legion has been some manipulation of his. So that event with Eltro and everything else they've ever done has somehow been shaped and directed by him.
I don't understand then why the Time Trapper isn't omnipotent. How come he didn't control everything to make it so that they never decided to come and kill him back in issue 50, et cetera, et cetera? Why, if he can control everybody,
right,
and if anybody looks like a threat, he can do something and put a fucking wedge in their brain and make them weaker. How come he doesn't do that? How come he only does that with Mon-El? And I guess the answer to that question is because only Superboy and Mon-El are things that are entirely created out of whole cloth by him because they're from the Pocket universe.
Right. And that's another, I don't think they've ever explicitly said that Mon-El was, in fact, created the same way Superboy was. But this issue in particular does seem to suggest that.
Oh yeah, it totally has to be that way for this issue to work, right?
Right. I think one of the another possible explanation is that he rerouted Mon-El from the regular universe to, the fake Smallville.
Yeah, this way or this issue shows that he didn't really need to do that. He made these two super vulnerable guys in the Pocket universe that we found out about back in issue 38 and 37 of the Baxter series. And
well, right, but if that's the case, once he was destroyed, why does Valor exist?
Well, because he's there, he exists. Why would he disintegrate if Time Trapper got killed?
Okay,
I mean, I don't know.
Sure, that's as good an explanation as any.
It makes me wonder what the necessity of killing Superboy was. I mean, he's got Superboy and Mon-El, two invulnerable vessels, right? And right. I forget at this moment who even is responsible for killing Superboy. Was it the Time Trapper? He was involved somehow.
Yeah, they were fighting the Time Trapper, and there was some sort of electrical conduit that was like all the forces of the universe were going through, and he had to like hold the two sides together because it was broken and all that power went through him and killed him. But it wasn't that Time Trapper deliberately killed him, I guess.
Right. He died trying. He died in the process of defeating the Time Trapper in that adventure.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, so Time Trapper, I guess, did not expect Superboy to be killed. Even though he knows everything and sees all time and space.
Right.
But yeah, this issue makes it clear that all that stuff that happened to Superboy in the Pocket universe from issue 37 and 38 and Superman, all that stuff was made by the Time Trapper. Even if there's other planets, that stuff is all made by the Time Trapper, I guess.
Well, there's another,
and I guess it's all been destroyed by this point, right?
Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah, in subsequent pages, huh?
Right. So anyway, so then we're on Kulu, home of Will Docs. Kolu.
If you switch the vowels around, it's culo, which means ass in Spanish.
Did you just make that up?
No, that's true. Culo.
How do you know that?
Because I took Spanish 1 in high school. We learned all the swear words.
They taught you ass. Oh. You weren't using that on the curb when ladies were walking by. That's not where you picked it up. Right. That's where I picked up a lot of Spanish slang. like at the
Yeah.
bus stop or something.
Oh, well, yeah. Working at a restaurant, I learned like a lot of that
Right,
stuff and the food words and the silverware and
right.
stuff.
Mota, of course.
I don't know what that is.
Mota?
Oh,
Like
that's marijuana, isn't
I
it?
believe so.
Yeah.
Kolu?
Kolu.
Kolu.
Kulo.
I feel like a lot of the, like 90% of the future names are like regular names, but they just yank a vowel out.
Like, what's this one?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know what that one is. I don't know what that particular one is, but they always feel like they're bastardizations of real words, but they've taken like an essential vowel or possibly consonant out, so it doesn't quite flow right.
Yeah, that's their method, I guess, for nomenclature.
Right. Maybe Weisinger
And
had some grand master plan, and they're all like scrambled versions of girls he dated or something, and we'll never know. So we see Brainiac 5 looking very much like, what's his name? Harry Dean Anderson from
Richard Dean Anderson. Yeah.
Richard Dean Anderson from MacGyver. Got the mullet, rocking the mullet. He has been, I think, did we see him doing this the last time he showed up? He showed up a little bit on issue 1. Was he
I think in issue 2 they reveal that he's investigating this
right?
what's it called, Wanathococcus validus.
The Validus plague that afflicts
R-
Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl's kid. One thing I noticed this time around, I see some of the traits that he's kind of well known for in later comics starting to show up here, but he still seems to kind of care about the other characters here. He's a little annoyed by them, but he seems more compassionate than later depictions of him.
Oh yeah, he seems still nice. He seems like it totally like this is what the adult version of Brainiac 5 is based on the 60s or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And he's kind of chilled out, like he went through some weird shit as a in his 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's I mean he's kind of a Vulcan. They
Right.
kind of do that, and he gets some kind of deadpan stuff like on the next page with him
Yeah.
in it.
Get some good lines in there.
Right.
But he's not like completely annoyed that they've shown up. I mean, you get a sense that he actually likes his former teammates.
Yeah, he seems like he's a curious person instead of a person easily annoyed.
Right.
They've got a handle on him here.
Mm-hmm.
He goes way off the rails as time goes on. The characterization of Brainiac 5 to the point where you can't stand him. You want him to die.
Well,
But here he's okay.
though, as we mentioned before, I think he is like the most popular character nowadays. So I guess people just like bastards.
I think that high popularity isn't based on current characterization.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe people still think that he is just a smart green guy, and he has a look.
Like I don't know the new comics super well, but like the way I read him in the issues of the later Levitt stuff that I've read, it feels like he was watching a lot of Sherlock. That show with Benedict Cumberbatch, but he's always kind of like shitty to everybody around him, but knows everything.
Yeah.
Here he's still just a super smart scientist. He's not like a magically smart scientist. Also, like he can't just solve anything in 2 seconds. He still has to do research and stuff.
I like the I mean, first of all, I like this kind of domed laboratory thing he's in that's all shiny and orange.
Mm-hmm.
Like amidst this kind of rocky desert kind of area.
Right.
But then I also like Giffen's drawings of the like microscope imagery.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. In the second panel, is that one of those worm fellas? Those, do you remember those? They're
like
villains.
Gil Dishpan.
Uh-huh.
No, those guys are always in a globe and they look a little bit different.
Okay, right.
But yeah, Shadowlass and Monello showed up, and he's like, just like Mr. Spock, he's like, fascinating,
right?
Whatever. And this next page is it's like a gag page, kind of, right? Where
tell him it's the time trapper.
Yeah, kind of like they're like, no, it's us. No, tell him we're here about the time trapper, and the probe droid is like, just wait a second, he's busy.
Right.
I don't know, like in other comics, like Mon-El would like fire some heat vision and just barge right in someplace. In on this page, they're patient because
Eltro's
it
gone.
add well, yeah, I guess it adds to the effect of it
Right.
being kind of silly.
It couldn't have been something simple. Before he's even come to see what's up, he's kind of spying on him, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Assessing the situation ahead of time.
Oh, on this page, Mon-El's all sweaty too, like he's having some
Right.
physical problems keeping it
Right.
together.
Maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, but when the time trapper's talking about getting rid of the lead vulnerability because he basically wants to use Mon-El as his new body. He mentions that he's been keeping him alive all this time. I think maybe that explains why they couldn't cure him at the end, or why he wouldn't die, at least not until, the next to last issue. Like he was injured badly enough that he should have died, but the time trapper was not allowing his body to die. I mean, that doesn't explain the flat line, but apparently he wasn't even dead then. He just had a slowed heartbeat, I guess.
Yeah, or something. Yeah.
Right.
Like he can still be dead, and I don't know. The time
De-
traveler can have him be dead and also alive at the same time.
right. Dead kind of in the same way that he's dead in the Eltro Gand issue, where apparently he wasn't actually dead at all. He was just in suspended animation of some kind.
Oh, when he gets lead poisoning or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess I should have saved that for the next page. It actually explains it.
Oh, does it explain it on this flashback page here?
Right. So we get an explanation that goes back to Action Comics. What was it? 380 something?
384.
384. Where he was supposedly destined to die according to Dream Girl. And Eltro, his ancestor, replaces him, try to die in his place, but actually causes him to die in the process because he leaves him somewhere without his antidote where there's lead. And this gets to that second naked thing I was mentioning, like on panel 5 here. He's naked.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
And it makes sense. Like maybe it's a revision that just makes more sense than the way we read it because he took his uniform, you would suppose. Except when you come down to the last to panel 7, they clearly both have uniforms.
Right.
So I don't know why he's naked. Maybe he just wanted to check him out while he's unconscious.
Yeah, that's weird, huh? Because in the original comic, he is clothed.
Right.
He's never naked in
No.
the 1969
Not
comic
that we
book.
see.
Yeah, what a goof. What a crazy mix-up. But yeah, this is more of the interior of Mon-El's head. Time Trapper's replaying this memory
Right.
of flashback to issue 384
Right.
for the benefit of Eltro Gan to torture him, I guess, and also to update us readers on this comic that we
Right.
haven't looked at in 20 years.
You've got that kind of sepia, the aged look for the flashbacks with the browner colors.
Yeah, and I think this is my favorite panel in the comic, panel 6 of page
Really?
page I don't know what number it is. It doesn't have a number on it. This extreme close up of Eltro Gan crying when he's discovered that he's responsible for making the prophecy come true and killing Mon-El. He's bummed.
Yeah.
But it's a good, I don't know, weird upshot with deep shadows and
Right.
he's crying.
He should have known better. I guess they didn't get like reruns of the Twilight Zone on Daxam. That kind of shit always backfires.
Yeah. Dream Girl's prophecies always come true.
Right.
And on this page, Eltrogan has taken to calling Time Trapper father all the way through. Like he accepts that the Time Trapper is his creator. It's kind
Right.
of weird. Like Mon-El, he resists that. He won't do
Right.
that.
You're not my dad.
Eltrogan, he's such a puss, I guess. That,
Right. He's just sucking up to him, hoping maybe he'll be spared.
but at the end of the page, I think Time Trapper is saying, "I'm not going to spare you."
Right. You've served your purpose.
You've become a superfluous distraction.
Right. But it also like up until this issue, there weren't like two of them in his head. They were sort of amalgamated together. He wasn't like in Mon-El's place all these years. Or they weren't like fighting for control. Their personalities had been merged together. They had been a single person. and something about the resurrection divided them back up.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right. Which, I mean, that kind of softens the blow on the Lightning Lad thing, because he sort of has qualities of Lightning Lad plus Prody. It isn't. I don't think it's just a 1-for-1 replacement.
Right. Yeah, it does seem like more of a merger of
Right.
blurring the lines between these two characters.
Right. In
Uh,
Lightning Lad's case, it almost have to, for, like, say, all of his intense battles with Lightning Lord to make sense. Like, because Lightning Lord doesn't mean shit to Prody.
yeah. Like, why would he still have these feelings?
Right.
These conflicted feelings about Lightning Lord. If he was a different guy, he wouldn't give a shit, right?
Right.
I don't know. Do the people watching this video know that the same machine that swapped Eltragan for Element Lad is the same machine that we eventually learn? We talk about this all the time, and I think it's even, is it still like up for debate whether Prody became Lightning Lad when Lightning Lad died and was resurrected, or is it explicit in the comic? I feel like it's in an annual or something, and they still don't say that that's what happened, but it's very heavily implied, pretty clear that like that's what they're telling us happened.
I do feel like it's been said a few times post reboot, though. He's definitely not Prody. Like in the newer iterations. Like,
oh, right.
Some people were really mad about that. And maybe that's even why some of the people wanted to restart. Like, you ruined everything.
It's such a great idea. It
is a great idea. It's a really great idea.
Why would you be mad about a good idea? Right. A good storytelling development? Where does that idea come from?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you, so you can start explaining it.
So the entire concept of the personality swap, it was actually a fan theory that had been published in the Legion Outpost fanzine. I don't know exactly when, the 70s, right? It'd have to be the 70s. Early 70s.
I guess so. I feel like you were telling me about it. I don't really know.
Oh, I thought you were going to read it.
I forgot to read it.
I thought you were going to be the one to explain it, because I didn't think I was going to have this book in time.
I feel like I did the research, but I didn't look at that. Where else did I read about this? All I got around to reading was the Keith Giffen interview in Legion Companion. Does he talk about it in that? But yeah, some fan just had the idea that the device that,
what's it called again?
I don't know if they even gave it a name.
No, it's
some kind of gizmo from Daxam that can restore the life of a dead person, but only by killing another person who's alive.
Right, a very strange innovation.
It's like a devil's bargain type of thing.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, you want your dude you like to come back to life? We can do that, but it'll cost you somebody else.
Right.
And so in the case of Lightning Lad, they got this, and Saturn Girl was going to do it. But then Prody, he's in love with Saturn Girl, and he takes her place. Prody supposedly dies to bring back to life Lightning Lad. And then it's the same gizmo that kills Eltrogans to restore Mon-El. But the idea is that it doesn't actually kill that person. It puts their brain into the other body.
And that's where that idea first came up, was in this fan theory. And though the fan theory was mainly about Mon-El and Eltro's trade, the fan elaborates later that this would mean the same must have also happened to Lightning Lad and Prody.
Yeah.
Which we will see in later issues if we get
right. Yeah, that look, every time we read one of these New Legion superhero comics, we joke around about Prody and Lightning Lad. as if everybody knows about that. I don't know if everybody does know about that. Uh, and especially if they do know about it and it makes them mad, I just
Mhm.
want them to know that Dan and I embrace that. We love that idea.
Right.
That it's Prody and it's not fucking Garth Rand's that jock shithead.
It is I think it's Margie Spears is the name of the fan who came up with that idea. And I think she also kind of in the process of explaining the Prody Lightning Lad swap, she suggests that Prody and his race must be intelligent. They're not just pets. They're sentient, and that becomes a bigger thing in this series as we see they start expecting to be treated like autonomous individuals, not pets.
That was actually in an earlier one. Remember that Legion of Superheroes number 300 where Prody is taking the photograph of them on the cover? That's
Right.
that
He
jam
has like
cover.
some sort of activist flag or something.
Right. In the following issue, he has this conversation with Saturn Girl, and
Mhm.
he's like, "I have a job now. I'm nobody's pet.
Right.
I don't have time for your stupid Legionnaire stuff," or something like that. Because he can talk to a Saturn Girl because they have telepathy. I don't know if
Right.
he can actually speak or what. I don't know. But yeah, that was a point that happened in way back in issue 301,
Mm-hmm.
which was whenever that was 1983 or 4 or something. So 5 or 6 years prior to this comic book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not totally new idea. I don't know if Giffen and Levitz, when they did that one, were thinking about what Margie dreamed up in that Interlac or Legion Outpost letter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Could be. I think they had their finger on the pulse to a degree.
Right. They'd both been interviewed by that publication. I think they were aware of it.
But that's what happened to Monel and Eltro. Same dude. And now they're both in there.
For more information, please refer to our episode detailing Action Comics 384.
4.
384.
384. But dun dun dun, the cliffhanger of this page is that I think Time Trapper's gonna kill Eltro Gand or kill him. I don't know what you could do with a guy who's just like a
It's like
a
he's being
little
deleted.
yeah, he's just a little wiggly line inside
Right.
of Monel's brain,
Right.
and a weak one at that.
So we see Shadow Last kind of arguing with Brainiac 5 about do something, and he's he talks back a lot like he does later, but it just seems like he's not being as big a dick about it.
Yeah, he's much more patient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy who's just trying
Right.
to get his work done and be smart. And
Right.
he explains that there's limitations to what he can do.
Right. But they will keep trying. Maybe some later depictions would either instantly solve the problem or cuss her out and tell her to get lost.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, he
If
has
they're
good
gonna-
bedside manner here
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that they forget about later on.
So they have some sort of EEG, like it's a, I guess they're brainwaves, and he's noticed
Yeah, they're electrical impulses.
there's two of them and a third very faint one, probably Eltro's weak brain fading away.
He says it's an almost undetectable pattern, but
Right.
it seems still pretty prominent on the graph that he's pulled
Right.
up here. It's like it's about half as thick as these other two. No, I wouldn't say undetectable. He seems like he's detected it pretty solidly.
I had misremembered this scene as showing that it flatline or disappear entirely, but I guess it doesn't.
Oh no. I think it's kind of cool. He has Monel like laying down on an examination table,
Mm-hmm.
but Monel is like hovering above it, and there's this like dark shadow beneath him.
Oh,
And I'm not. It's like I don't know. It's some kind of weird spacey Dracula type of thing or something where he's just like floating prone above this bed.
I never ever noticed that.
Yeah, like you can even see his hand is like stuck out flat, you know?
Right.
It's like he's flying or whatever, you know, whatever Superman and Mon-El do to defy gravity.
I
He's
mean,
just like he's doing a plank, I guess.
this is the 30th century. It might just do that to anybody.
That could be.
But
He's laying on a
I
force
like your
field.
version better. But it would make sense if you had the ability to levitate someone that you were potentially going to operate on. It would probably be beneficial
Right, you could
because
get
you could
underneath him,
rotate
right?
them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I thought it was because he was flying.
Yeah, I mean that sounds much better. That sounds cooler. And then they maybe they'd have to like weigh him down, put some bricks on him or something, so he doesn't keep
He
floating
doesn't keep
off while
floating
they're
away.
working on him.
But this page, not a lot of drawing. Keith didn't have to do a lot of drawing on this page because the panel 1 and 2 and panel 8 and 9, same panel, and then panel 5 and 6, same panel. So he really only drew about 3 panels for this page. Pretty good, pretty efficient, or lazy. Maybe he's lazy.
I
They
don't
say
think so.
they had to scrap a bunch of pages from this issue because this is the one where this was the issue where the shit hit the fan and
Mm-hmm.
the Legion team was told no more Superboy. Can't have Superboy. Can't talk about him. Can't refer to him. Can't
Right.
do any Superboy stuff. So they done some shit on this issue and they had to redo it, I guess. So Giffen, I'm sure, is looking to cut quarters.
They'd already been told to write him out, to kill him. They couldn't use him anymore. But they're taking it to the next level, and now they can't even mention him past tense or anything, any reference to him, which is nearly impossible to do with the Legion since they all first appeared in Superboy.
Right.
So even like Mon-El, and I think in that Teenagers from the Future book, they say that might have had, well, they state it as fact. I don't know if it is a fact that that was why Mon-El kind of disappeared right after issue 50 as well. Like they kind of had to write him out too, even back then.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know if that's totally accurate because I mean, just from looking at those issues a couple of
Mm-hmm.
days ago, the quest to
Mm-hmm.
cure Mon-El,
Mm-hmm.
that subplot that
Right.
Shadowlass and Mon-El are going around, they get a few issues or a few pages in every issue for
Mm-hmm.
about 3 issues in like
Mm-hmm.
51, 52, and 53.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they're forgotten about until, I don't know, 6 months or something near
Mm-hmm.
the end of the series. It goes until 63. And then I think the part where that we both remember where his heart rate monitor flatlines or whatever because
Right.
the electricity goes out. That's in the Magic Wars in issue 60 something, right?
Right. Might have even been the last or the second to the last.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Right.
somewhere between 53 and 63, you didn't really see him at
Right.
all for the most part.
What
So it
I
kind of holds water, but also like it seemed like they had this plot line going, and then in kind of like typical Legion fashion, it didn't amount to much.
I think the way they were describing it, it was like they were trying to get him out of circulation just temporarily. Like they're figuring this will blow over. Like maybe in a
Mm,
couple years, the editorial will loosen up and let them use these characters again. But they
uh,
need to like kind of move them to the background a little bit for a while.
I mean, it's still kind of mind boggling that like they did all that shit. They did a crossover of the Superman comic book. They had a big anniversary issue or whatever with a Bill Sienkiewicz cover in the Legion of Superheroes comic to get rid of Superboy.
Mm-hmm.
Problem solved. You know, we figured it out. Me and Paul Levitz and John Byrne, they put their heads together. They solved this thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
with a cool, I mean, debatably cool story that wrapped everything up, made it all work, had a good crossover, sold a few extra issues of Legion Superheroes to the people buying Superman that month.
Right.
But then here it is, whatever, 3 years later, and they're like, not that wasn't good enough.
Right. You wonder who's calling the shots on that too, because Levitz loves Superboy. So I don't think he would have killed him off unless they just told him you have to. You don't
Yeah, I
think
don't
so?
know. I I mean, he did it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
and he's the boss. So he
Well,
must have thought
right.
it was okay. Must have thought it worked out well enough.
Right.
But yeah, by this point in issue number 4, whatever, the John Byrne is gone, Paul Levitz is gone, and I
Hmm.
guess Levitz is just taking a real laissez-faire approach to whatever is going on in the Legion of Superheroes comic book, because this is happening, and he's whatever. I
Right.
guess he's just like, nah, I'm not an editorial anymore. I'm not going to do anything. I'll let those guys settle and let the
Right.
dust clear where it may.
That's a charitable interpretation. We'll
Well,
probably
I'm a
never
diplomatic type of guy.
we'll never know entirely what Levitz had to do with or not to do with in terms of the complete erasure of any reference to
Yeah.
Superboy. But I think at the very least he didn't stop it from happening.
Yep. Oh, there is an appearance of Superboy in this comic book. Maybe the last time Superboy shows up in a Legion comic. Oh, we didn't get to it yet.
Until they decide he's in the Legion again. Kind
Yeah.
of.
No, yeah. I'll point it out when we get to it. The final appearance of Superboy in a Legion comic.
The final appearance of Superboy as a major member of the team, not someone who was they met briefly
Right.
and
Right.
died. What page are we on?
This comic is weird. Like, there's page number. It must be because of the production shenanigans. Like, there's page numbers up to like page 6, and then there's no more page numbers until like page 16 or something, or page 10.
10. Yeah, I don't know.
But also, like, reading this comic, I feel like there's pages that may or may not be out of order, and I don't know if like that's why there's page numbers, because somebody's like, they're gonna fuck this up, so we better start numbering these.
Right.
And it's like
Well,
Keith Giffen and Tom and Mary are like, we can't even keep it straight. We better start numbering these pages.
they maybe all the way through do have like this kind of modular quality in that we don't really change scenes within a page.
Right,
So you
right.
could take the sections and move them around, the scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's only there's 3 locations in this comic book. We haven't got to some of them, but there's like the first 2 pages are on Talakate. There's Brainiac 5's lab, and then there's the place where Mon-El and Time Trapper meet up.
Right.
And there's also the shit that's inside of Mon-El's head, I guess, but that's
Right.
kind of different. But yeah, you can, as you read this issue, you can start to see like, oh, maybe I could read all the Brainiac 5 lab stuff in one chunk, and then the other stuff, and then they just kind of shuffle the pages for, I don't know what, for a little bit of dramatic contrast or something.
Did you ever read a comic like that? I have, especially when I was younger. I'd skip over shit I didn't care about. I'd probably come back and read it later, but like
well, I mean, I just the other day read the Shadow Last Mon-El sequences from about 4 different issues of the Baxter Legion, I guess.
Right.
I don't typically read them. I just will read them. Like, when it's 24 pages, it's not that hard to read all the way through.
But sometimes it's hard to resist. It's not like a TV show where you have to sit through it. You can just keep flipping and find out if the guy died or not.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Sometimes.
I guess I control myself.
You're a disciplined comic reader.
Yeah. This page is confusing to me.
It is.
The next page, it shows the man, Time Trapper, in a place. Up until now, he's just been a voice in Mon-El's head.
Right.
And now he's in a physical place. We see the purple robe.
The way he starts his little monologue would imply that he is at the end of time.
Yeah.
The place where they fought him in issue 50. But that becomes a little unclear as we go. Because somewhere along the line, he kind of implies that they may be on Pocket Earth, or what's left of it.
Yeah, does he imply that on this page?
It may be. I don't remember exactly where he says it.
But yeah, he's again here just explaining kind of what his plans was and how he he created Superboy to make sure that Mordru didn't become the predominant whatever evil force in the universe, so that he
Right.
could have it instead.
He's not content with just having the remains of the universe at the end of time. He wants all of it, like when it's in its prime and people are still alive, not just the ashes and rubble. But that means he's got to take out Mordru and magic.
And as he's explaining this, in the fifth panel here, there's this like magical blob that pops out of the ground,
Mm-hmm.
flies to his hand, and then 2 panels later, well, actually, in this panel, it looks like there's this smoking thing. Is that the thing that he had in his hand a second ago? In the seventh panel, is
I
that
don't
like a
know.
miscolored version of this thing?
I hope so. I thought you were about to say it was a sperm.
It almost is. Giffen
Right.
draws these sperms all the time,
Right.
but he is pregnant in this next to last
Right.
panel.
Right.
And actually, remember I pointed this out? This is the classic Giffen pregnancy reveal
Mm-hmm.
drawing. Like they
Mhm.
showed in issue 1, they showed Lyta Jaith like that, Night Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then in issue 3, they show
Saturn.
Saturn Girl. And it's still the same pose where it's like you have a fat belly and your hand is draped across it.
Right.
I was thinking that this must be Eltrogand in some capacity, and he kills him. And this is like the over here on this the last time we show Time Trapper, he says away with you, and you're kind of don't see Eltrogand anymore. And I feel like maybe this is him killing Eltrogand and destroying him.
I don't know.
But then he's also pregnant, and I don't get what he's pregnant with or who he's pregnant with. He doesn't give birth to another Mon-El or Superboy.
Well, right, but I think he's explaining the process of doing that. Like he's explaining what he did, past tense.
Oh, is this a flashback to him creating Mon-El?
Creating Pocket Earth, I think.
Oh, that changes things. That changes my understanding of this page.
Oh, okay.
But I have to read it again. I have to read it a bunch of times.
Right.
Because to me it seemed like the stuff in the narration boxes
Mm-hmm.
and the stuff in the images weren't the same story. You know?
Right. Right.
Like it's some Chris Ware shit or something, which is giving Keith Giffen and Tom and Mary a lot of credit. But I still don't quite know what is happening.
Yeah, I mean, even still, I'm not sure any of this is happening physically. It's like he's explaining what happened, and these are like visual metaphors of what he did. I don't know that he literally made himself pregnant and an earth shot out between his legs.
Well, but they don't ever tell a story in this metaphorical or in a metaphorical kind of way that you're talking about, really, do they? Where like,
Well, I mean, I've
I
seen it
created the
before.
universe, and they show a pregnant person, that
I
they've done
feel
that
like
in
they
Legion.
do. I mean, I don't know if I can specifically point out a Legion comic, but I think a lot of times when there are godlike characters, Beyonder type characters in comics, they will start, or if it's like a shapeshifter, for example, and he's telling a story of people he met in the past, he will turn into those guys. So I think he's taking the idea was he stole like a millisecond from the regular universe. He stole a sliver of it. He cut it just a tiny piece out that I guess no one's going to notice, and then he grew it into an entire second universe. And I think maybe that's what's happening here, but it's like shown visually. Like everything in his realm is sort of metaphorical because it's all like just this wasteland. Where is this wasteland? Is it on a planet? Is it just?
Yeah,
Does that
it's always
represent
it's the end of time.
Right.
So it's like if we understand the end of time as like the big suck or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like it goes back to infinite density and infinite gravity.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on the all matter of the universe condensed to the head of a pin or whatever.
Oh.
And he's just there, and it's all garbage and it's all waste, but it's also everything in an area that's smaller than anything we can comprehend.
Well, that works fine for him, but what happens when the Legionnaires come there to kill him?
I don't know.
Why aren't they getting smashed?
They should not be able to survive if that's where they
Right.
are. But Mon-El, I guess, can survive. But yeah, I don't. I still am not totally sure about what's happening on this page and what's supposed to be happening on this page. And I don't think it's because I'm not bright enough to understand it. I think
Right.
it's because they didn't know what they were trying to do, and it's not. They don't put it over.
They don't explain it well enough to have known what I just said, but I know that that is the idea. Maybe not specifically for this page, but that I didn't make up that. I read that somewhere. The idea of it, him taking a sliver of time to. Maybe that was even in the Superboy story.
Yeah, I think
The-
that's probably that sounds familiar.
The burn thing.
But and then you think it like this page, the glowing thing that he takes is that little bit of time, and he impregnates
Right.
himself with it.
Right, because we're clearly whatever this is, if this is like his memories or maybe this is just his thoughts taken being acted out, because this is all occurring in his mind, right?
It seems like it. Like at the in the
It
last
almost
panel,
seems like they're watching.
oh, it almost seems like Brainiac 5 was watching it on TV.
Yeah, because in the last panel, he's like, "Wait, somebody's on to me or something, or somebody's watching," and then it goes blank on the very next panel, and you see them staring. They've been staring at that screen, and I know that's not probably literally what's happening, but that's how it seems to read.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's literally supposed to be happening is that Brainiac 5 is trying to isolate all three of those things.
Right.
Time Trapper's killed Eltrogan, so he's not there anymore. And then Brainiac
Right.
5 is trying to split the two, and they start these caption boxes that like that they look like they look like the receipt that went through the washing machine in your pocket or whatever.
Right.
And then it fuzzes out. So Brainiac 5 isn't seeing anything on his computer. He used to be seeing two wiggly lines,
Right.
and now he
He's
sees nothing.
Jamming the transmission or something.
But this last panel on this page, it goes back to the weird Time Trapper point of view from over here, right? It's back to this motif again.
Right.
And so this is Time Trapper's point of view through Mon-El's eyes, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this must all be Time Trapper's flight of fancy.
It's like his inner monologue. I mean, unless we think he literally enlarged his stomach to create.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anything.
I mean, it's not done in the way that other flashbacks are done, or other like there's not rounded edges on the panel borders. There's not like a dark background behind the panels or something like that. So it's confusing about where we are.
Right.
But he might have become pregnant. Like this might be how he creates his Superboys or whatever.
Right.
And I think there might also be some coloring errors. I think these rocky things in the second panel and in the seventh panel, I'm not sure that those are supposed to be rocks. Might be something else. I don't know. Especially in the seventh panel, you can see there's this little kind of wiggly thing that looks like a phone cord or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing it in my black and white version here.
Right.
Oh, and it's like this. It looks like almost like a head, maybe, or I don't know what that could be. But it doesn't seem like it's just a rock, like these other rocks that are decaying here.
Right.
Don't know. Weird page. Pretty weird.
We'll have to ask Keith.
He doesn't remember that old fart.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool effect though on the next page where the computer blacks out and they're like, "What's going on? The computer turned off," and they turn around and Mon-El has just disappeared altogether. It's like Twin Peaks type of shit. And I wonder, is it that same drawing? It's almost the same drawing from the previous page, just with the exception of Mon-El.
Oh, right.
Like he photocopied it. Oh, again, he reused the same drawing.
They should have like Brainiac 5 looking up just to make sure he didn't float to the ceiling.
Uh-huh. But he's gone. Mondel's gone. Brainiac 5 postulates that the time trapper plucked him away.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get attacked by Brainiac 5's secretary, who's all decayed and gross now.
Again with
maniacal.
the probes. Again with the probes. Wasn't Mordru using some of them last time?
Yeah. I think I would not want to get one of these guys now. If I was a Legionnaire, I would be like, mental note, don't buy any more of these guys. They're not, they need a firewall in them.
You can't just hit accept on the agreement.
Right. You can't accept all cookies. You have to go and reject a few of them.
If you look in the fine print way down there, it says omnipotent supervillains may be able to use this to...
Right. We sell your information to the supervillains. It looks real cool. This is more of that stuff like we were talking about on the cover, where he's drawn this kind of cruddy stuff as a contrast to the slick, smooth stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in black and white.
I bet it looks way better.
It looks pretty cool.
Yep.
Look how grody she looks. And in color, it looks good, but it's, he's just kind of colored along the crud with gray.
Yeah,
and
it's sort of tricky to effectively color stuff which has a lot of texture.
Yeah,
like it usually makes more sense to not have those textures. But you'll notice like a lot of those European styled comics that are in color will use very light kind of pastel colors so that you can still pick up a lot of those liney textures inside the figures.
I mean, they're doing their best. Some of this you can tell this is like early kind of Photoshop. Like this is kind of a grainy, like these grays in the within the crud line is this kind of grainy, almost like whatever add noise command in Photoshop or something.
You think?
It looks like that to me. It looks
1989, right? I'm sure Photoshop was around. But...
Yeah. I mean, I think Tom McGraw was like an early digital coloring guy. And it's not like the Image Comics digital coloring. It's something else. It's a little bit more basic than that and trying to follow the old rules a little bit more than fucking Wetworks or something like that in 1994 or 5.
Wetworks.
Go watch an episode of Cartoonist Kayfabe. They talk about Wetworks once a week.
Real quick, 2 pages back, because we missed it the first time around. That panel 4, does that look like it was glued in there badly?
Where? Wait, this is the EKG
you're on
thing?
the right page. Yeah, bottom of
this
panel
one.
4. Yeah. The way
these are the electrical impulses in the brain.
The way it's way up and it's not centered very well.
Oh, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's the same lettering, but yeah, it's the balloon's a little weird.
I'm just wondering if does it look like it was done separately and glued on there?
Yeah, it could be. Like there's some color hold stuff that sort of overlaps it, which is kind of unusual. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention was back on this page way back here on this is page 5.
Mm-hmm.
On the Tom Bierbaum blog, he mentions that there's supposed to be caption boxes in the first 3 panels of these. They got left out altogether.
Oh.
I was kind of curious what they were supposed to say. I was surprised he didn't put it on his blog post. It was just supposed to be like conversation or computer readout or Encyclopedia Galactica about the Validus plague, I think, is just... And it probably would have wound up being duplicated information in the way at the end of the text piece. But like these do seem like uncommonly silent handful of panels there.
Panels 2 and 3 for sure.
Yeah.
But, most of the time ones like that are sort of unnecessary. I mean, who knows what they wrote, but feels like you could hack every other one of those out. Those dialogue, those explanation boxes, and it would still work.
It just becomes a much really unusual kind of pacing for a superhero comic to have 3 panels of shit. God,
I don't know. See, I think it works. I think it works really well because it's like he's been working by himself in silence, like he's waiting for a result there, and it didn't work again. Like he's just tried something.
Yeah, like you get to the 5th panel, he's like, right, I know. Like he's talking to somebody who's not there. He's talking to a computer readout that
Well, right.
we're not privy
Or
to.
like the fourth panel, his damn it is in response to, like in the previous three, he's just waiting to see if this thing he added is going to kill that virus or something. And then finally he's like, damn it, it didn't work. So he's just sitting there in silence. Maybe I'm
No, I mean,
tired.
I think as like a character thing, yeah, that works.
Right.
I'm just saying that like for like the I don't know, like a nuts and bolts making a superhero comic book,
Right.
to have 3 panels that are merely there,
Uh-huh.
or they wind up being only to show you the
Well,
location for 3 panels,
mm-hmm.
seems like weird. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely, like it does make sense that it was an accident that there's not a bunch
Right.
of text in those panels.
But yeah, the right I know. Now that you mentioned that, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, like who's he talking to? He's just talking to himself.
Like that seems like maybe it had a box.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like maybe the computer up on the top. I guess you could say he's reading something. He's responding to something out loud.
Yeah.
Like your phone says shutting down or something. Like I don't know, like sometimes you
Right.
respond to a prompt.
Yeah, and it's just like it isn't spelled out to us. I guess that's what throws me off. Is like, is this a comic that tells me everything, or is this a comic that doesn't tell me everything?
Right. Somehow though, even though often it's an accident, like when they leave things out, I kind of think it makes stories a little better. Because
Definitely.
there is a tendency, not just in comics, in all media, to over explain everything.
Yeah.
Like I personally love missing the beginning of a TV show, like the first 10 minutes or so, because it'll become real, and it tricks me sometimes because I'll catch an episode of something and I'm 15 minutes late to it, and it seems really interesting and compelling, and then I like it so much I'll go back and watch it from the beginning, and then I'll realize like everything that I thought was interesting and mysterious and puzzle like about it was actually over explained in the beginning, and it wouldn't have been good. I wouldn't have enjoyed it if I'd seen all of it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like without that wordy setup, it's like a mystery, right?
Right, right.
It's. I mean, it's the same as like when you. I don't know if this happens to anybody anymore. When I was a kid, I could flip channels on my TV,
Mm-hmm.
and you're up in the middle of the night, and it's whatever 1:30 a.m. and it's dark, and you're like, what is this black and white movie that's already been on for half an hour? And you start
Mm-hmm.
watching it, like, what the fuck
Right,
is this? It
right,
doesn't make any sense. It's so weird. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
right,
But then if you actually watch it, maybe it becomes the most conventional thing you've ever seen.
right.
You know?
Exactly.
Like without the missing pieces and without the half asleep context. It's like, oh,
Right.
this is just whatever. This is a Hollywood movie from whatever.
It's kind of the magic of live or antenna TV. Kind of lose that with streaming unless you happen to walk in the room and someone's already watching, I guess.
But also like you'll never see anything that's mysterious. Like every new thing, like they go
Mhm.
out of their way to tell you in every scene
Yeah.
what's going on.
And then if there is some big reveal, right after the big reveal, they'll go ahead and explain it again.
Yeah.
Explain it in words just in case you missed it.
Yeah, there's never anything. It's all made for people who are like they're watching another movie at the same time on
Right.
on their phone or whatever, you know, like that's what it's for.
Are we on 10?
Yeah, we're back on 10. The probe is going to kill them. Time trappers took over the probe and is going to silence these two guys.
Yeah.
Brainiac
It's
5
turned
and
into some
Shadowlands.
kind of vampire-like horror creature.
And also, like the walls have this mess on them.
Right. Yeah, and it makes it. Yeah, it's causing her to like, because she's a machine, right?
I guess so.
So she's like rusting and cracking and like entropy.
I think that's the idea, is that the time trapper, whatever power he has to control this thing, is also simultaneously making it decay into dust.
Right. He's like the
and the whole environment is that way.
He's like that. Like, aren't there like some like fictional depictions of like of death or whatever, and he touches a rose and it turns to
Yeah, exactly. The next page doesn't continue that. The next page, we're back with Mon-El. Mon-El has disappeared from Brainiac 5's lab, and here he is now in a limbo place.
Yes.
This is some more stuff that looks good in black and white. Giffen did a lot of little noodling. He made Al Gordon do a lot of little noodling with his brush or his pen or whatever.
But I think the colors for the backgrounds look nice though, mostly. Like that silver and copper color. Maybe not the yellow so much. They almost look metallic, the colors.
Yeah, kind of. To me, they're trying to make it look like dust and crud flying around or something. Right. And I think you can kind of make out shapes or like the stuff moving in different directions. Mm-hmm. But it's just Time Trapper has taken Mon-El to this place, and he's going to kill him, I guess, is what Time Trapper wants to do.
Right. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but he feels in order to dispense with Mon-El to take over him, he has to leave him and fight him physically. Maybe this is where it's sort of implied that they might be on Pocket Earth, because he asks where he's been taken, and he says, to the universe that spawned you.
Yeah, he says, I'll beat your soul back into submission. So he's not even necessarily, I guess by that logic, he's not necessarily going to try and kill Mon-El. He's just going to make him as weak as like El Trogand was, and then fill up the rest with Time Trapper mind.
So he mentions this is where he first created him, and that he's just basically his backup plan, his in case he's ever in need of a body. He basically grew Mon-El as this indestructible vessel that he could use.
I think this is kind of a cool page where it explodes. Like you have to. This is like the appearance of Time Trapper on this page, the third panel, like this explosion, and then there's the stuff swirling around in the fourth panel. And then you see these kind of wiggly. It almost looks like smoke going up in kind of a wiggly pattern. And it continues that way in the next panel with Mon-El saying, "You'll have to kill me first." And then it's almost undetectable in this panel. There's a little outline of Mon-El getting blasted with a bright light. You have to look real close.
Oh, I see.
I didn't even notice it until I was doing my little black and white version here, and it's this shape.
Does it stand? Oh, wow! It even picked that up.
I had to kind of revert, like invert it, kind of.
Oh, okay.
But it's like
sense.
Like you imagine this as like white on top of yellow. It's like something hitting Mon-El and blowing him up.
Right. So this probably, it probably would have worked better if the cutout there was just like solid white, right?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, instead of it being an outline, be a silhouette, a white silhouette.
Right.
And then in the last panel, Mon-El is prone on the ground. I still have not deciphered what happens in the eighth panel. He screams, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be seeing here. Like if it's supposed to be like an extreme close-up of Mon-El like flying across my point of view, or what. Like there's always things hidden in these kind of Giffen drawings, and you can't quite pick them up sometimes. And then in the last panel, you can see like a figure beginning to form in the wiggly smoke.
Standing above him to the right.
Yeah, and it's this guy on the next page. It's like a whatever a rocky form that Time Trapper takes on. But he's swirled him up, conjured him out of the dust of the Pocket universe, I guess. And this was in issue 52. Like he did the same thing in that issue.
Right.
I had the idea that maybe when they had this fight in issue 4, they just kind of redrew it or something, but it's not. It's not exactly the same. It's kind of whatever the 90s version of that 80s special effects. Yeah.
When we covered 50, I think we noticed the parallels, the similarities between that and this.
But yeah, Mon-El just fights him for 3 pages. It's almost filler in a way, just like the brute fist fight aspect of it. But I encourage people, if they can look at it in black and white, you should check it out. It's pretty cool. I think it's better than this fight scene is better in black and white than in color.
It is. Not a lot is happening here, especially compared to the rest of this book that is so dense with exposition. But it is kind of a nice change of pace to actually just have some almost no words, just pure action, panel to panel, in this series. This is like the most we've seen of that so far, anyway.
But I think this stuff in black and white is pretty interesting. Like just seeing all the little bits that Giffen and Gordon are putting into this.
Gosh, I really wish they did the essentials for this.
Yeah, and you can almost kind of follow the action of, like, here's a fist punching out Mon-El, and it's got the speed lines kind of showing you which way things are moving and swirling in this limbo area.
Right, that panel looks a lot better than the color one.
Yeah, you totally overlook it in color.
Essentials. I meant DC Showcase.
I want a fucking IDW is going out of business, but I wish there was a artist edition.
Is that official?
No, but
you're just talking about
This looks like different lettering from the rest of it, a little bit.
The
regenerate this. Actually, the then is somebody else, and everything else is Todd Klein. Don't know why they needed to add then. They need to get the production department to put in the word then.
I believe you, I guess. I guess I've overestimated my ability to discern that stuff, because I'm having a tough time seeing enough consistently different stuff.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm giving myself too much credit here. To me, they look different. It looks like a different letterer does some of this stuff. And not that it even matters. I don't know. Like pointing it out doesn't really serve any purpose, I guess.
It's also harder for me because it's a lot easier to distinguish things now, because because more often than not, it's a computer font. So it's going to be uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Every letter is going to be uniform over and over and over. So you can look to make sure to see any inconsistencies. But hand lettering, they're never going to, his letter forms are never going to be 100% the same.
Yeah, but like in the same way that you can tell the difference between John Workman lettering and Todd Klein lettering. Like when you see like a weird correction and it's a totally different hand, that's what I see, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get better at this. I'm gonna learn to tell these letters apart.
All right, I hope so.
You've pointed out a weakness. I've realized I have a blind spot here, and it's going to drive me crazy.
Your comic book comprehension is not 100%. Damn, you're missing out on things.
Right. So the first panel is pretty funny. It's pretty good.
Yeah. On this page, it goes back to Brainiac 5 and Shadowlass fighting the probe. Yeah, Shadowlass uses her power to turn out the lights.
Mm-hmm.
And Brainiac 5 is like, that doesn't work on the probe because it doesn't have eyes, but you did, however, render me quite useless.
Right.
Or helpless.
Right.
Kind of a funny line. Another Mr. Spock kind of line.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Keith Giffen does think of him as Mr. Spock, and then these other writers, they don't follow that. They think, I don't know, is there another like big kind of archetypal type of whatever Star Wars sci-fi character who is smart, and the smartness just makes that person into a shithead? Like you mentioned Sherlock, but this is way before Sherlock, you know?
Yeah, I don't think this character is Sherlock. But he doesn't really feel like Mr. Spock to me either, though.
Yeah, he's like Mr. Spock, like in the movies. And again, another way that this is the 5 years later period is like the Star Trek movies or something versus the show. But it makes me think of like Daffy Duck, and you know how the Bob Clampett Daffy Ducks, he's just crazy and funny, and he's not mean or malicious. Yeah, he's literally Daffy.
Right.
But then you get into the later ones, and they're all the Chuck Jones ones. He's just a dick. Like you fucking hate him.
You're despicable.
And even Bugs Bunny's kind of an arrogant asshole. But
Yeah.
Daffy Duck, he's mean spirited and he's a dickhead. You don't like him at all. And it's
Right.
like you put those two together. It's like this isn't even the same character. Somewhere along the line, somebody decided, oh, his character is that he's a shithead, you know, instead of being Daffy.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe they were trying to make him more like Donald because Donald has more of that personality, or maybe it was just because they started putting him with Bugs a lot, and then you can't have they basically had identical kind of. They were the guys who never got hurt. You can't have two of those guys together. One of them has to be the guy who everything backfires on.
I think maybe, yeah. I mean, part of it too, I think, is the Chuck Jones style of storytelling is not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not animated. Like it starts to be a pose to pose type of cartooning rather than like wild takes and a lot of movement and stuff. Where so to make that funny, you start doing this deadpan type of stuff where, oh, I squint my eyes to show that I'm mad instead of exploding to show that I'm mad or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's where it comes from. Like you have to have these like big personalities. I mean, that's not applicable to Brainiac 5, but that's just what I thought of as the Daffy Duck personality discrepancy.
Right.
Brainiac 5, he sucks now. He was so good before.
You're the first person to ever make that comparison.
I hope so. That's what makes our YouTube channel unique.
Yeah. I think Daffy's all right. I kind of like Donald better, but because he's a bastard.
I like Bob Clampett Daffy Duck. I don't like Chuck Jones Daffy Duck.
I mean, I grew up watching a lot of the Bob Clampett stuff because we had all those cheap public domain VHSs with him.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I like him. He
like
made
somebody
a comeback in Roger Rabbit, didn't he?
Yeah. That's like the Bob Clampett one.
Right.
Like, yeah, you wouldn't even put that fucking boring ass, mean spirited Chuck Jones one in Roger Rabbit. That would be a waste of time. He'd just stand there and quip or whatever. He'd be annoying.
I guess maybe because I'm old and curmudgeonly now, I find myself sympathizing more with the grumpy Donald or Daffy than I used to. But I generally, like, definitely when I was a kid, I thought the early one was better.
I think when I was a kid, I liked the kind of the Chuck Jones ones, but maybe I didn't know the difference. I think I started to think the Chuck Jones was the best cartoons because
it just depends on. I mean, if it's a solo Daffy, where he's up against someone who's clearly the villain, Elmer Fudd or someone, then I think he's more likable. When they put him next to Bugs Bunny, they seem to accentuate his dickishness.
Yeah, that's true. Just those ones are the most famous, like the Wabbit season, Duck season ones with the signs, all that shit.
But he gets all the laughs if you think about it. Like, yeah, Bugs is getting away with everything. He's getting shit on the whole time. But in a way, Bugs is just the straight man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Bugs is fucking boring because he gets away with everything. It's like Mickey Mouse has no personality. He's totally boring.
Oh, he's the worst.
Though there's these new ones my kid watches. They're pretty funny. I don't know if you've seen any of them.
New Mickey Mouse? I haven't watched any of those. I've heard they're good. Steven Stefano worked on them.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
huge fan of that guy.
First time I've ever actually laughed at a Mickey Mouse cartoon.
Huh. Yeah, I should watch them. I mean, there's the new Looney Tunes too.
Those things are built so much on things you can't do anymore. It's like Popeye. If you can't smoke and you can't punch people, and I mean, if you strip all that out, what's left?
Anyway, let's get back to this comic. This whole page is Shadowlass killing this probe.
Right.
And I don't quite know what happens. She dispatches the probe at the end. The probe is like, you're too weak. You won't kill me. And Shadowlass is like stomping in the final panel of the page and says, you can't kill something that's already dead. And it's this like cloud of dust.
Like, is it entropying real fast and just breaking down and crumbling?
I guess so. But on the next page, you see that the body of this probe is still complete, but there's like a puff of smoke. And I wonder if Shadowlass has like stomped the head of this probe to dust or something.
I think it is the head.
Yeah, because Brainiac 5 is like, that was our only lead. You killed it or destroyed it.
And you've got that strategically placed puff of smoke right above the shoulders on the third panel.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah, it is. It's actually like you can see the ear right where it says Kroof. Mixed in, there's the ear of the probe. So she's like smashing the face of the probe into the ground.
What's it look like? What's it look like in black and white?
Looks like it looks like this.
So not necessarily.
It is more clear. Yeah. See, like right here is the ear and my dirty fingernail.
Mm-hmm.
This is the back of the neck.
Oh.
And so the face is being smashed into the ground down here.
Oh, yeah.
Does that seem right? Like over here is the shoulder or I guess this would be the shoulder of the robot.
Yikes.
And that explains this cloudy area around its head in the on the next page. So she's brutal, Shadowlass, in taking out this thing.
Brainiac 5 looks like he's reading a magazine.
He's like waiting for her to kill this thing while he's reading Popular Science.
Not sure that was a good idea.
But for a second she's pissed at him because he's kind of telling her off for flying off the handle.
Right, like he wasn't much help, but now he's sort of like complaining about the way she dispatched him, but it wasn't like he was doing anything.
Well, he was blind. He said she blinded him.
Right.
Yeah, and this whole 2/3 of this page, page 14, is supposed to be in pitch blackness, but they've kind of brightened it up so we can see what's happening, see Shadowlass killing this thing. But yeah, now Brainiac 5's whole lab is kind of decayed into garbage. Mon-El is gone. Their only lead to finding him has turned to dust and is gone.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe he looked at a photo or something, but the bottom middle panel is really good. Like it's very evocative of the emotion, and the tears don't look melodramatic.
Yeah, like the expression on her face is it's more emotional, more complex, I guess, emotionally than GIF intensity.
Right, it's like a more sophisticated show of emotion than I'm used to seeing in comics like this in general. I mean, it's a kind of putting up a brave face, but shedding a slight tear, but
right,
or dripping.
Yeah, there's also this where she's kind of glaring at him in this wordless panel here.
Right.
This is even a good drawing. This is more of just she's just like emphatic or whatever and angry, but yeah, good range of emotions on the Shadowlass character on these couple of pages.
Mm-hmm.
Giffen's good. He's good at this stuff, right?
He is.
And even up to now, or like he did that last year of issues on the Baxter series. Prior to that, maybe I wouldn't have expected this level from him. Like he was good, but this is kind of a new thing, I think.
Yeah, it seems like maybe he's married in some of that Maguire.
Yeah.
The Maguire faces into his more standard style.
Right, yeah. Like he's fully absorbed the Kevin Maguire style. He's a sponge. Mm-hmm. He's who is he? Duplicate boy of comics.
Yeah.
Like all he has to do is look at it once and he can redraw the Jose Munoz panel verbatim for Ambush Bug. I mean, he must have done like 4 years of Kevin Maguire comics. Like, yeah,
You mean from Justice League?
Yeah. Giffen knows he's got the whole toolbox of Kevin Maguire memorized.
Right. For sure. Especially, I mean, doing those breakdowns, it seems inevitable he would start kind of drawing them for Maguire, like in the style Maguire works.
And probably half of Maguire is derived from Giffen, right?
Yeah.
And Al Gordon even. Like Al Gordon was inking those comics too.
So I can't think of a lot of stuff McGiffen. That's who this is. I can't think of a lot of stuff Maguire did that Giffen didn't have some hand in.
Not very
I know.
much. Like he did some kind of creator own thing for like Malibu Ultraverse or something maybe
Mhm.
that didn't have Giffen. And then this much more recent Superman, I don't know which that he drew that didn't have any
Probably
Giffen in it.
Supergirl.
But yeah, it's almost all
Hmm.
Giffen and DeMatteis stuff.
I wonder how well it holds up without Giffen. Does it just kind of turn into Adam Hughes?
I mean, it's so many years later,
Hmm.
like I actually kind of prefer the earlier stuff, the Justice
Hmm.
League stuff to the whatever the hell, the 2020 looking stuff.
It's
It
too polished now.
it looks really smooth and like they all look like they're made out of rubber and I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah.
And he does a lot of stuff where he must be guiding the colorist and like a lot of the lines are not black anymore. They fill in the line work with
Like they're coloring the
like
line
if
work
it's
or
the
replacing the line work with
yeah,
color.
it must be like one process almost where it's not like he does the black line and turns it over to some colorist. It's like he or his studio or somebody is like turns in the final work and
Hmm.
it's in color and they do it this way.
Hmm.
Like every now and then, like I'll see like black and white cartooning of a pretty girl with like lips, right? And her lips are black with like a highlight on it,
Right. Right.
of white, and you can see the teeth in there.
Right.
And then somebody gets the bright idea to, well, a mouth is red, so they'll turn that black completely red. And it's like,
Oh.
oh, that looks weird. That's wrong. It's all the
Right.
lines are supposed to remain black.
Right.
And then like that highlight, you can make that highlight red, to make it look like shiny red,
Right.
dark
Right.
red lipstick or something on her. But they
Right.
don't do it that way. They make the whole mouth red, and it looks weird and wrong. And that's
I mean,
kind
I
of what
think.
this kind of what this Kevin McGuire stuff looks like, only to the nth degree, where everything is colored
Right.
something, and there's no black line at all.
Well, that's not possible, right? Like, what about the face? Like, is the nose and
Well, like let's say it's a Supergirl. She's this white chick. She's blonde.
right?
The black lines on her face, they color them like a darker brown color, like a shade or two darker than her skin, right?
Yeah.
And then the lines that do her hair, it's they're not black anymore. They make those yellow and make her hair a slightly lighter yellow, for example.
Right.
On and on over everything, the whole image.
I mean, I feel like I've seen something like that done to good effect before, but the way you're describing it doesn't sound good.
To me, it doesn't work on Kevin McGuire. Like there's
Right.
this guy, Daniel Acuna. Have you seen
Mm-hmm.
this guy's artwork? It's really computery looking, but it
Uh-huh.
works. To me, it looks good. It looks right to do it in this style. And he's mostly done Marvel stuff, I think. Like he did an Eternals series or mini series, I think.
Uh-huh.
But
Didn't
this is
Kyle
this is
Barker kind of do that? Kyle
y-
Barker. Baker.
yeah, Kyle
Kyle
Baker kind
Baker.
of does that to a degree, yeah.
Mm.
And I mean, Kyle Baker, like his stuff, it's always kind of an experimental type of thing,
Right.
So it's like
Right.
you kind of forgive him if it looks
Mm-hmm.
weird because like he's just trying everything to make comics faster. It seems like,
Yeah.
and he's funny, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
I don't know. All I'm trying to say is that the most recent Kevin McGuire stuff I've seen is not to my taste exactly.
Right.
Not that he's bad, not that he's getting worse, but actually I think the polish is, I don't know, it's not my thing. I like more traditional cartooning, black and white or black
Yeah.
line type of stuff.
Yeah. I've seen this guy's work before, the Daniel Acuna guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm less familiar with newer stuff, but a lot of it looks the same to me. Like, I know it's not identical, but they all look kind of like, to me, they remind me of. Do you remember that guy Sean Phillips?
Uh-huh.
He did like Hellraiser for a long time,
Yeah.
or Hellblazer. I feel like everybody's
Right.
drawing like him nowadays. So
Hmm.
this sort of, it's like they like threshold a photocopy and then trace that. So there's like deep
Yeah.
shadows under the nose, and the eyes are just black, kind of triangles.
Yeah, I see that. I see that in the Daniel Acuna stuff too. But
Hmm.
I think what I like about his artwork is that it still has like a cartoony exaggeration to it.
Oh, okay.
Like they're still super people,
Uh-huh.
but the he'll have different body types and he'll stretch them when they do like the move fast or whatever and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah, that's good.
And so I like that about it. And the color treatment is kind of insane
Hmm.
sometimes, and I kind of like that about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
There's a few guys like I can't remember. I can't even remember exactly who other than Simonson, Walt Simonson. Guys who will draw more or less representationally, but will kind of cartoon parts of it. And sometimes that
Yeah,
works terribly, but some guys can really make them blend well.
right. Yeah, I think the cartoony exaggeration is lost on a lot of people and has been for a long time. Like they
Mm-hmm.
they think they're embarrassed by that by doing
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Meanwhile, to me, that is comics. That's what you can do with
Right.
it. You know,
Right.
like if you look at old comics, old like North American comics, you look at manga, they do
Mm-hmm.
that. Manga, they
Right.
go to wild extremes.
Right. Yeah, that's
Um,
actually a good example. They do that a
yeah,
lot.
but just like making a guy look different if he's flying at light speed versus just standing there
Mm-hmm.
totally makes sense to me. Versus he looks exactly the same no matter what he's doing, and I
Right.
don't know. It's like all that kind of on model type of thinking too. Like kind of drives me crazy because you can make it look funnier, make it look more
Mm-hmm.
dramatic, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And there's not a reason not to do that unless
Right.
you're just embarrassed about the medium or working in. Like, why are you doing this? You know?
What Simonson does, and I know he's not, there are other guys do this too. Like sometimes if it gets to like a more comedic scene, like maybe the girl's yelling at the guy, all of a sudden the guy will have like big dot eyes. Like they'll
Right.
start to have more like cartoony faces. Well, then it'll
Yeah.
switch into something more photorealistic. It just kind of goes back and forth.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who just don't understand that,
Right.
you know? But yeah, that's like you totally see that in manga and anime. You
Mm-hmm.
see that in Keith Giffen comics.
Mm-hmm.
You see that in Adam Hughes comics, you know? Even like this pinnacle of quote unquote comic realism, Adam Hughes, he still does cartoony stuff like that.
Right.
And some people accept that, other people and others they won't.
Jaime's kind of good at like switching back and forth.
Yeah, yeah,
Like they're very blended.
yeah. But for some reason, it seems like there are certain people who are incapable of that, and I think there are certain readers
Mm-hmm.
who they'll be like, I really like Jaime Hernandez, except for the when he does that stupid cartoony stuff
Right.
where they get
Right.
hearts for their eyeballs and shit like that. You know,
Right.
it's like, come
Right.
on, just accept it. Just get on board. You know, like that. That
Right.
is it makes an emphasis. That's the cartooning in this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The last 30 years or so, comics have almost. It's like they're embarrassed that they're comics.
I know.
It's like they made a list of, or maybe they saw some list that Scott McCloud or someone like that made of all the things that make comics unique, and I'm like, we need to get rid of that. No more thought balloons. That's ridiculous. People don't have thought balloons, and
Right.
no more motion lines, and
Yeah, like
all
they
this
take
like
that food pyramid thing that Scott McCloud did, where
right,
it's like there's a realism in one corner and like the
uh,
whatever the Roy Crane in the other, and
right,
whatever
right,
it's like uh, everything except for this one corner should go. You know,
right, right,
give me a break. Like that's the best stuff that you decided to get rid of. The
right,
stuff that
right,
really helps you sell this and gets you excited, and makes people
right,
laugh, makes people cry, whatever. Like this no, this is too extreme, you know.
right.
Why would you come on
Well, it's
like
almost
this? She's making a mean face. We shouldn't have that, you know. Not stoic enough.
it's almost like you want the opposite of what the producers of the comics want. They want their stuff to more closely resemble film because they're kind of trying to move into film. But at least I feel like whatever form the work's in should try to capitalize on like do things with that form that you can't do with other forms. Otherwise, why do it? So, I mean, if you just limit it to what film can do, uh, it's like a second rate film because it can't do the things that only film can do.
Right.
It should just do things film can't do that only comics can do, or at least not do those things. So that's what makes them special.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to leave out the stuff that really makes the medium unique, right? Speaking of that, fist fight. This is more of that, more of the limbo dust storm universe.
Mhm.
Mon-El still fighting the time trapper.
And he seems to be able to regenerate himself as fast as he beats him up or breaks him up. So he decides to just see how fast he can regenerate and just try to smash him up at super speed and see if he can overwhelm him, I guess. Destroy him before he can put himself back together.
Yeah, that's literally all that happens on these 2 pages, right? Like,
right.
They're fighting, and Mon-El's like, "Oh, you regenerate every time I beat you up. I'm going to try and beat you up faster."
Right.
And that happens in this panel, like almost to the end of these two pages.
And there they are doing just what we were talking about. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got 6 fists there.
Yeah, this is he goes all like Fist of the North Star on him. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
And he's like, what is he? He has like a weird battle cry, and he says something crazy. He goes la 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 while he's punching you so fast.
Right. So I was seeing more like Seeger Popeye there, but yeah, I see.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and on the top there, and I don't think I even saw this reading it, but it's clearly the two of them charging one another.
Right. Yeah, they even kind of color it that way. It's, to me, it's, I don't know, it looks good in black and white too.
Yeah.
You don't know who's who exactly, but they're going to go after each other. And then it becomes this big explosion.
Mm-hmm.
They explode here, and it radiates out this away.
Right. I don't think I've ever heard of Thoof before.
A Cthulhu.
Oh, it's Cthulhu. I missed the Cthulhu.
That's like two two sandbags hitting each other and go. Poof.
Oh yeah.
But he's Mon-El's beating the shit out of this time trapper golem, and time trapper's like, "Please stop doing that." And Mon-El's like, "Did you say please? You used the magic word." And time trapper begins to explain what's going to happen if Mon-El finishes him off permanently.
It's kind of weird here. He's the time trapper is showing it's like vanity or something here. Like he's like, my son should not see me this way.
Yeah.
And then he sort of draws his his signature purple maroon cowl just seems to come and envelop him and hide his unsightly broken up body.
Right, and he doesn't even look that much different than before.
Right, but for some reason he's like embarrassed, so he's covering himself.
Yeah,
you shouldn't see me with my arms falling off. And
yeah, he says, Mon-El's like, "I don't care what you look like," and time trapper's like,
"I don't give a damn." Which, like,
actually, they capitalize what he says. "I don't give a damn what you look like."
Oh, right.
This is a good page of the time trapper. To transition into a flashback, Giffen does like a truck in on the emptiness of the time trapper's face.
Oh yeah,
face area.
Mm-hmm.
And then the time trapper explains the entirety of the origin of the Legion of Superheroes from the point of view of the time trapper, with some little revisions mixed in, some kind of contemporary revisions about. Oh, he talks about the moving through time, the great financier, R.J. Brand. Like that's a Giffen thing, I guess, that he began in maybe Legion 89.
It doesn't make any sense. But
no?
Not really, because how does he know who Superboy is?
Yeah, I don't know. You're right about that. Yeah, there is no Superboy for him to know about, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Maybe he implanted it in his mind, I guess.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants, huh? He
Right,
just needs somebody to be rich, and I don't know why he needs him to come from the past, but that's what he chose.
right,
He's just
right.
fucking around, this time trapper. And has the origins of RG Brand really been explained? I guess they did to a degree. Like I remember there was some stuff about his brother or his cousin or something. Um,
Well, way back, of course, in the hideous secret history of the Legion, it's when we first find out he's a Durlian, right?
yeah, that's when
And
they reveal
then
that he's a Chameleon Boy's father.
and then they went on like a trip together to Durlia, right? Or where are they from? To
Durla.
Durla to was it to restore Chameleon Boy's powers? Maybe.
No, because I think at the end he had lost his powers. So
Oh.
yeah, this story that you're talking about, I think RG Brand maybe was going to go and stand trial or something for some crime they accused him of or something, and they both
Mm-hmm.
went to defend themselves or something.
Mm-hmm. I just realized we didn't, not super important, but we didn't explain why Pocket Earth is a ruin.
I don't even know. Why is it? That was something that happened in Superman, right?
It was basically the three Kryptonian criminals from Superman 2,
Uh,
because Krypton exists in Pocket, or existed in the Pocket universe. They existed. They came and they just completely destroyed the Earth, or killed everybody on Earth, killed every living thing on Earth,
oh,
which
okay.
is what led to. I think it might have been Burns' last story where he has Superman decides the only thing he can do is execute these guys. He somehow got rid of their powers. He like exposed them maybe to gold kryptonite or something like that. But he's like, no, the risk is too great that they could somehow get their powers back and maybe come to my universe and destroy it. So the only thing I can do is kill these guys.
Sounds logical to me.
Right. But that is why it is a wasteland.
Huh, okay. I guess yeah, I just never thought about it. I guess like the years in between the death of Superboy story
Mm-hmm.
and the death of the time trapper story and then this story,
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that yeah, I guess I must have just assumed that the pocket universe was nothing anymore anyway.
Right.
Even though
It served its
even
purpose.
yeah, even though thinking back, it's like, well, they only killed Superboy. I guess all that fucking Monpa Kent and Pete Ross and whatever the whole of I don't know Krypton or whatever that stuff was all kind of still there at the end of the death of Superboy story, wasn't it?
Right. There's another explanation I've read for how Pocket Earth works that I think I can explain that doesn't sound too insanely complicated. This helps explain the inconsistencies, because of course in Superboy he was fighting aliens in every other issue. Like there are all kinds of things he was running into that should not exist in this world where you only have Krypton and Earth. This explanation is that the time trapper is almost like us, or the creators of the comic. Like he is aware of there being a pre-crisis DC universe. Like he was part of that, but it's sort of like, just like the Legion itself, like his foundation got wiped out beneath him, so he had to build a new foundation to plug it in so he would continue to exist and things would still go the way he wanted it to. So Pocket Earth is a substitute for him so he can continue to exist, but it isn't like 100% the same. So like by this rationale, like all of those stories where he, like, I don't know, teamed up with Aquaboy or ran into aliens, those did not happen. It's like it's not quite Silver Age. It's just a close enough facsimile to allow him to continue to exist. Does that make sense? It is kind of complicated to explain.
Well, I mean, I guess I just don't see the difference between that and I guess what I'm thinking of is that it's just another universe. And whenever our dudes from the 30th century do time travel, they time trapper has them go to his universe, and it's not just an Earth or just Earth and Krypton. It's a whole universe,
Well, that would
and
make
it's
more
just kind of
sense.
just disposable.
That would make a
It's
lot more sense. But I think they said a few times that there wasn't anything else there.
oh
I don't know
really?
why. I don't know why, because yeah, it makes things really needlessly complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it in a way makes Time Trapper more powerful than maybe you want him to be if he can create a whole alternate fake universe.
Mm-hmm.
But also he does that. Like if he has the power to say, "Oh, instead of being born with a weakness to lead, you were actually born without a weakness to lead," then he can do a whole universe too, right?
I'm guessing it probably has something to do with the editorial like mandate that there can't be other universes. So this is sort of like a well, it's not exactly a universe. It's just this tiny little thing that has an Earth and a Krypton on it.
They call it the pocket universe, right?
Right. Pocket,
And so,
like
yeah,
tiny.
you put on the word pocket and makes it sound small, but it's actually a universe of infinity size, right? So I don't know,
Maybe.
six of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah.
But that's about the only way that I could really account for it. Is like if all the shit that a universe usually has going on with a superhero in it
Right.
happens there, but also like the stuff that we all read, just so it makes sense, they have the Legionnaires go to this wrong universe so that Time Trapper can keep his power, keep his ego, whatever.
Right.
And I guess I'm cool with that and not thinking about it any farther than that. But
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that they decided to wipe out Superboy from Superman's history at the same time they got rid of multiple universes, because then they could have just said they were traveling to the Silver Age Earth, or he's from Silver Age Earth. Problem solved. But
yeah, it doesn't make any sense that they would make it so complicated for each other to
mhm.
make comic books.
Right.
These editorial people.
It just occurred to me today. I don't that the JSA had the exact same problem as the Legion, but it didn't really hold them back. They worked around it pretty easily because Superman was in the JSA.
Didn't they write him out of it though? They replaced him with who they replaced him with? Uncle Sam, Amazing Man, or somebody.
They mostly just wrote him out entirely. Though I think Roy Thomas had that Young All Stars book, and there was like a guy named like Iron Morano who was
Oh
kind of a
yeah,
Kent Shakespeare kind of guy, like his
right. Yeah,
stand-in character. But just funny that on both ends of the history they had to write Superman out, but it didn't cause nearly as much trouble for the JSA.
I mean, it's probably just kind of a mix of things. Like they could have done something with getting rid of Superboy, but then you have creative people who are like, well, let's do something with this editorial mandate. We'll make an interesting story out of it,
Yeah.
and so they do that. And
Mm-hmm.
then in this issue, they're like, oh, well, we have to get rid of him again. Well, let's do
Mm-hmm.
something interesting with that. And they do this issue,
Right.
and the next issue are kind of cool. But then it's like that compounds the like you could have just put a note in the back that says, from now on, we're not having Superboy anymore, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Just like when they did the thing where Superboy, he's not in the 30s anymore, he's in the 50s, and he's always going to be 20 years earlier than the Superman stories whenever they take place. Like they
Right.
did that. Like it's on its own page, it's a comic book page, but it's like, just so you know, it seems stupid, but this is what we're doing. Like that's what they
Right.
said. They could have done that
Mm-hmm.
for Superboy here, but they didn't do it. They decided to use their brains and do something cool and do a
Like
fun
yeah,
story.
like explicitly address it.
Yeah, by doing that, it just makes it kind of complicated when you have to like write the history books or whatever, some other stupid annoying comic book thing they have to do. It throws a monkey wrench in the works.
It does make it makes for a fun comic, but that's true. They could just happen to never mention Superboy again.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? And the Mon-El would be the big problem, probably. You'd have to at least change his name somehow. You could just say one day, I'm going to call myself Valor, and that's all there is to it.
I guess. Yeah, I don't think you even need to do that.
Well, I think they were disallowed from using the name.
That's still like
But
somebody
even
splitting
that is
hairs.
all,
Like, I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. And also, like, he shows up like twice in this whole series. Like,
Right.
he
He
just
does
shows up.
very little.
We'd seen very little of him, and then he shows up just for this, just to disappear for another couple years.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right when you said that they basically wrote him out of the previous series.
Right.
They brought him back for one issue here, and then he doesn't show up again maybe until the 20s somewhere,
Right.
like when they're fighting the Dominators or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
was that him or yeah, that was him. He did show up. It wasn't
There's
just the
him and there's a
kid.
young version of him. They're
Right.
both there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, I never followed the Legion 89, but I know he's in a lot of that, right? Like he was like maybe on that team.
Oh yeah, I think he was. I never read any of them either. I think he might have been on it.
I have like a
Um,
Superman annual with him in it. Like he fights Legion 89 or whatever. He's wearing a totally different costume,
yeah,
like
like
without a
somewhere but
cape.
before he gets his own series in Valor,
Hmm.
he had some kind of dealings with that team. And it's kind of logical that they would have the what is supposedly like a 20th century version of the Legion of Superheroes. You
Hmm.
put you put the 20th century version of Brainiac 5, 20th century version of Shadowlass. Oh, we got a 20th century version of Mon-El, put him on there. So that
Right.
makes sense.
It's funny. Then Marvel copies that formula and they get a huge hit out of it. Because Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of the Marvel. It was their future team. They decided to do like a contemporary version of them, and those are the characters in those movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like at this point, people have completely forgotten about the future team.
So anyway, the time trapper explains to Mon-El how he did all that stuff. I guess he
Mhm.
just gives a recap to Mon-El of the Death of Superboy storyline, and then how he used his powers to create the Legion of Superheroes. Oh, here's that panel of Superboy. The last time we'll ever see Superboy in a Legion comic, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is some different lettering here, so this is kind of a revision happened on this panel, I think.
Mm.
I'm not sure what they might have changed, but it has to be in the explanation of Superboy, the inspiration, R.J. Brand, the financier, and then all that equals a Legion Superheroes team. They had some last minute changes in
Hmm.
this panel, but then he goes on to explain how there was Darkseid. They beat up Darkseid. They beat up a
Right.
bunch of other villains.
And that all the times that they thought they were going back in time, they were really being sent off to his pocket Earth.
Right.
Possibly still back in time, but not our time.
It gives me an idea that there is a 30th century pocket universe. I don't know what's in there because I guess it eventually gets vaporized and turned to dust by what you just explained. The Phantom Zone villains destroy it in the 20th century or something. But before that happens, maybe there's a 30th century that has another Legion of Superheroes or
I think
something.
it's still there. It's just like a wasteland. Like everyone there is dead. I mean, that's where they're fighting, right?
I don't know. Still don't quite know where they're fighting. If it's at the end of time, of the pocket universe, or in the real universe, or if it's someplace within Mon-El's
Well,
brain.
right, but
He does say, "I brought you to my universe or my place," huh?
the universe you were born,
Yeah.
something like that. We get a little kind of montage of a bunch of their villains, a bunch of deep cuts buried in there.
There's
Um,
Adam Orion.
hmm There's it's that the
That
wicked
green.
genie from the Ditko issue.
Oh yeah, but who's this guy? I just looked him up. This green dude. We always talk
Right,
about him.
right, right. He looks like a
His name is
Micronauts character.
his name is like Last time we talked about him, I said his name was like Photon. It's not. It's his name is like Dagon or Dagor,
Right.
but I
We
don't
just
I don't
need
know if
to.
that's right either.
We're just gonna have to cover that issue, or did we do it? Did we already do
I don't think we did it.
it?
We did the genie issue, I think.
Right.
This guy is Echo. I think his name is Echo with the big shades.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes a Legionnaire in issue 28 when the Sunboy issue.
Oh.
And they have this montage where they show all the Legionnaires show up to quit. They're resigning in front of Polar Boy. And I
Oh.
think that guy's one of them. I could be wrong.
Right.
I could be misremembering this.
Is that like the Emerald Eye?
Yeah, this looks like
Or
Ragman.
wait,
Who is
wait,
this
wait.
guy?
Maybe it's a Luck Lord. Maybe it's a Luck Lord.
Oh yeah, it does seem to have a neck, doesn't it? That's a luck lore. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a Ragman. What's Ragman doing in the Legion of
I
Superheroes
don't
comic
know.
book?
I mean, it could be the Time Trapper. It could be a Durlian. It could be how many cloaked figures?
Yeah, but he has that little bit of his face
Right.
that's showing.
Right.
I think that's Ragman. What's he doing here?
Ragman, what are you doing, dude?
Oh, I do have one question for you that I don't know if you
Oh.
know it. In this first panel, Time Trapper is explaining that every time they went back in time, they went back to his Earth.
Mm-hmm.
He says there was one exception, but he has been punished. Who is he talking about? Superman or Rond Vidar? Is that who he's talking about?
Could he be talking about Cosmic Boy?
I don't know. What punishment did Cosmic Boy get that the other people haven't gotten?
He lost his powers.
Yeah, I guess so. But you're
Like
right. He's the only one who went to regular DC Universe Earth, didn't he, in the Cosmic Boy miniseries? So that must be what he's talking about. You're right.
I don't know because but the other guys ended up fighting Superman in the present, didn't they?
In the Death
In
of
the burn.
Superboy crossover, they fight Superman, but I think it's. See, I thought maybe he was talking about Superman who went, instead of going into the pocket universe when he time traveled, he went to the real universe. But actually, that's not what happened. He went to the pocket universe like he was supposed to, I think.
I think it's supposed to be Superboy. Like Cosmic Boy was my first guess, but I think the other Legionnaires, because Superman first encounters them on the regular, like he's hanging out with his parents and Lana Lang. Didn't we cover this issue?
This is Superman number 8. Yeah, we did this one.
Right.
This is your perfect first Legion Super issue comic. Man, I can't say it.
But then he hears trouble or something, and he changes to Superman, and he's flying, and he sees them all hanging out at like some ruins or something, and then Block picks up a big chunk of rock and throws it at him.
Right. They fight. But then how did they get to the pocket universe from there?
I think Superboy apprehended them or something at the end of that issue. I think that happens in the second part. But yeah, the reason Cosmic Boy stands out, of course, is he's the guy. He was reading the paper. He's like, "What the hell? None of this makes sense."
Mm-hmm.
It's like the first time he had.
Well, yeah, that's the whole premise of that Cosmic Boy miniseries. Is that Cosmic Boy is an amateur 20th century historian. He's going to take a vacation to go back in time to the 20th century and research and have a blast with his girlfriend, looking at all the old sites. And he gets there and everything's different, and nobody knows Superboy. And also, there's this big Legends miniseries happening where everybody battling.
Mm-hmm.
The first time anybody met each other after the crisis happened is kind of what that Legends thing is, right? Nobody knows each other.
Could also be Karate Kid.
Yeah, we should just assume it's Karate Kid and he's been punished with cancellation.
Right.
Yeah, speaking of nude characters, we got a nude Darkseid in this. I don't remember them ever showing him without any clothes on in the Great Darkness saga, but here he is without any clothes on in this issue.
Yeah, I don't think he's totally naked, but I think his shirt gets all ripped off towards the end.
But the time trapper tells Mon-El that if you kill me, you'll undo all this stuff that I orchestrated to make you and all your friends even exist. That's what the
Right.
gist of this page is. And he says, and that's a sacrifice too great for you to make.
And then we get to see. This is the panel.
This totally ruins it. This stupid ad right here.
It doesn't fit.
The way to read this is in black and white mini comic form. Get yourself one of these.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is, I guess, my favorite panel. But like, there are two panels that always stand out to me as like being iconic ones, and I don't even know if it's because they're good or maybe I've just seen them republished a lot in articles. But the his line about maybe the greatest man I've ever known was your puppet.
Who's he talking about? Superboy?
Superboy.
Maybe you feel like this is your favorite panel because it's the same panel 3 times in a row.
Maybe. I think it's the dialogue, right?
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, but it's a great scene. He's like, fuck it. As long as I take you out. I don't care if everything I love ceases to exist as long as you go. But it does set kind of a precedent here. I mean, in that he's saying, even if you're not here, somebody will, like, we're inevitable in a sense. Like, heroes will rise whether you manipulate them into existence or not. And as we see, since they keep rebooting the universe, the Legion keeps popping up in entirely different ways.
As inevitable as the Time Trapper says he is, there's going to be a counterbalance, opposite power, right? That's also inevitable.
Yeah,
this is another page where might look better in black and white. This stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, mine's a little bit blown out, but like you see his fist going real fast, but there's this shading that's going kind of diagonally this way. There's like little dark areas. And I guess that's, I don't know, that's Mon-El's figure kind of hidden in the speed lines. And then it just becomes a blur in this 6th panel.
Mm-hmm.
And then turns into white, of course.
Right.
But here they've kind of colored it in, so you see his fist, but you don't see the rest. You don't know what the rest is, if it's anything.
I'm trying to figure out the going white, the white event. I was flipping through Crisis to see if they'd done anything like that in here. This might be the first time they did that. And it certainly is impactful here. I mean, they end up using this quite a bit in DC Comics to the point where it's kind of annoying whenever you see it. But the fade to white and the all white page. Didn't all the 0 Hour books, I think all of them ended like this. So it's kind of funny, like, as much as they bitch about this series and talk about what a mistake it was and they had to correct, they were clearly influenced by a lot of things in it because they used this device quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, this strikes me as like a really, like, I don't know, cinematic thing, you know? It's like just fade out, blow out the color to white, you know? Like, that's in movies.
Right.
But, you know, they hadn't done this before, and like, yeah, this is very dramatic. It just starts, like, the panel border starts to break up, especially when you tell the story with this 9 panels on every page. And then they just start to break up and disappear until you get nothing. Right. But this still kind of holds on to the 9 panel boxes. Right. It's pretty cool. It's like this is the credits playing in a movie or something, you know?
Putting the credits there at the end. It's a lot like how strips, like in comic strips, sometimes the signature almost acts as the period. That's how you know it's over. You don't, when you flip the page, it's not going to be a new story. That story ended with the signature. All right. So now this is Titan in a China Shop, an unauthorized biography of Mon-El by Beretta West. You'll notice that this time it is not the Daily Planet. Or if it is, it's in, that could be, is that DP and Interlac? I don't remember my Interlac so well. But
no, that's this right here. Mm-hmm. That's Mon-El's
oh yeah,
his mission monitor board symbol. Mm-hmm. This is MEL. But yeah, we'll remember that Beretta West is the gossip columnist from the Daily
Right.
Planet, and I guess she's written a book. This is like Kitty Kelly writing the
Hmm.
tell-all biography of Frank Sinatra or whatever.
Right.
If, if you
But
remember the '80s and Kitty Kelly,
but this just shows that the Superman ban extends to the Daily Planet. They can't use the Daily Planet anymore.
really?
Yes.
I thought it showed up later, but time will tell. I guess I don't remember.
At some point, I think editorial changed, so they loosened up a little bit. And, they were able to kind of work Superboy kind of back in, for example, into the history.
This guy Devlin Orion, when he shows up, he writes for the Daily Planet, right?
Maybe they'd relaxed by then. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
isn't
it's
that within like the first year? Because he's like one of the new characters, like that they talk about in, when they're doing promo for the new series
hmm
and like Amazing Heroes and stuff. They're like, oh yeah, and there's this new guy, Devlin Orion. He's gonna
hmm
be Reflecto. He's also a reporter. He's like Jimmy Olsen, shit like that.
Well, I mean, yes, but
It could
they
be
a
that they
lot of
take a
the
long time to introduce him.
a lot of those guys did take a while to come in.
Yeah, their plans
Uh,
changed a lot over and over again, I think.
there's so many different accounts of what happened around this time. Like what incited this, what made them say that's it, you can't use Superman at all in any form. Like that kind of oral history seems to suggest possibly killing Block was the final straw. But um, somewhere else I read maybe the use of the Daily Planet in these was. I don't know why.
You know what? I just was reading. I mean, I've read the same stuff as you.
Right.
So it was either in Legion Companion or in maybe it was the Giffen interview, but somebody suggested that part of this was like some kind of animosity between editors of the Superman magazines and Mark Waid himself or something.
Oh.
Like it was like I swear I read that somewhere in the past week.
Well, it's tough
And
because
like
there's
you hear Mark Waid talk about it, and he's like, "This is my first big comic book editing job after I was working at whatever." He's on Amazing Heroes too, I think, right?
right.
He like went to DC, and he's like, "I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what to do." All he is like this encyclopedia of DC Comics Silver Age crap,
Right.
and maybe they're like, "This guy, he's too much of a greenhorn for us to work with him," or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really tough because there's no definitive answer on why any of this happened. I mean, none that any corporation's going to admit to, right?
Yeah,
But you have like, a dozen or so people who are involved who each have their own theories and their own point of view, and we're talking about something that happened 30 years ago. And it's like you ever watch like old interviews of like old rock stars and they're telling stories and their life story well enough to know they're telling the wrong story. Something about telling stories over and over and over, then the stories start to change. Or I've noticed like with Keith Giffen, some of his anecdotes sort of change around over the years.
probably the most believable story is whatever like Tom Bierbaum tells you because
Mm-hmm.
he's just not part of the scene so much.
Right. He doesn't have anything to lose.
Well, yeah, there's that, but he's also like he's not bros with Mark Waid, or he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to ever. He's never going to have to work with Mark Waid again, or with Dan
Mm-hmm.
Jurgens, or Mike
Mm-hmm.
Carlin, or Andy Helfer, or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
he can be objective because yeah, he doesn't have anything to lose. I guess that's probably the right way to say it. But it's like he might also have he's the youngest person in the equation. He might have the better memory, and he may not have the same industry hard feelings and regrets and things like that that these other people might have.
Right.
And he doesn't have to worry about pleasing anybody or worrying about anybody being mad. He can just be like, no, what happened was Andy Helfer, he was on his
Mm-hmm.
period, had a bad day, and didn't want us to do this or whatever,
Right.
Giffen doesn't seem to have any hard feelings about any of this because he's worked repeatedly with dudes like Dan Jurgens, who was running Superman
Mm-hmm.
on the creative end at that time.
Right.
And I'm sure he's worked with all these editors over and over again in the intervening time. Maybe not with Mark Waid, but I don't know who was doing Superman back then. But, like these I think it becomes like a small world, you know? And like if one of these people had been like the one person who sabotaged and made my life so much harder on the Legion, I wouldn't have done anything else with him, but he probably did, you know?
It seems like he worked consistently when you just look at his bibliography over the last 30 or 40 years. But he quit the industry a couple times in between then and now. Like he left to go do animation for a while, storyboarding. So maybe he cooled off by then. But then again, I could also see him being like a guy who's like, when he's doing it, he's really passionate about it. He's probably storming into the Superman office and, fuck you. And then, like, as soon as the project's over, he totally forgets. He doesn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, that could be. It had to have been in that Legion Companion interview with him where he was like, "Yeah, I went to do animation because I couldn't get any work anywhere." Like you said, you look at his bibliography, he stopped doing anything at DC and started doing a bunch of shit for like Rob Liefeld at Image
Right.
and
Image.
Trencher. And then that I'm sure that petered out.
He was doing
And then he couldn't couldn't get back in at DC again until somebody was like down the road was like, well, what if we hired Keith Giffen to do this comic book? And now it's like 1998 or something. You know what I mean? That's like 4 or 5 years has passed.
Did he not get back till 52?
Nah, because he did like the Doom Patrol and I think like Vexed, I think was kind of late 90s. But I think it was after he had left and kind of got back in again somehow. But I think, yeah, I feel like what he was saying is that he quit because he wasn't getting any work from editors, the people who hire. And then time passed, and then somebody was like, "This would be a good guy to hire for this project I'm working on." And that's the only reason he got back into comics. It wasn't that he went over to DC and was like knocking on doors and like, "Let me hire me, hire me." I don't think he's doing that. I think he's just waiting for them to call him, and they stop calling him, so he has to find another line of work. And then time passes, and people forget that they hate him, or that everybody hates him, and somebody new hires him for something else.
Yeah, if you say he did something before 52, I believe you. But the way you describe that, like 52 seems like that would be the project. Like that they would think we need to hire this guy because he thumbnails really fast.
The text pages here, the unauthorized biography of Mon-El, is that what both of them are? Yeah, it just continues.
By Beretta West. Still looking for complete seasons of Beretta. Anybody have a lead on that? Please let me know.
This whole thing, this whole biography, these 2 pages that it excerpts from her biography, it's kind of it just explains that the period after Superboy died, Mon-El is real unstable and depressed and suicidal, and that the relationship between Shadowlass and Mon-El is very strained.
Right. This is like gossipy, trashy journalism. She implies or suggests that the Legion has been covering up a lot of his bad behavior and that it's nothing new. He's been a loose cannon for a long time, and that they've had to even force him into the Phantom Zone once, which I looked back at the comic and he's not. So I don't know if the writers made a mistake here or if they're saying because she's a shitty journalist, she
like she's exaggerating what happened or something.
They threatened to put him in it, like in that, was it when the lead was wearing off, the lead the serum? They were talking about putting him in. They didn't end up having to go through with it, like he calmed down on his own. But here, the way they make it sound like they did put him in.
Yeah, okay. So the story says ultimately the Legionnaires had to project Mon-El into the Phantom Zone and wait out his fit before they could resume their interference in the Talak 8 dispute. And then it says the Legionnaires don't want to talk about it because of another far more frightening breakdown. This episode was apparently triggered when Mon-El developed an immunity to the serum, While Brainiac 5 worked to update the serum, Mon-El suffered a complete breakdown that some Legionnaires have privately admitted was a suicidal rage. The Legion headquarters took a battering. Records indicate the damage Mon-El inflicted cost 30,000 credits to repair. Finally, the Berserk Titan, in an apparent attempt to end his life, simply streaked out of the headquarters and threw himself at super speed into the Earth's polymer shield. In his weakened condition, the ploy almost worked. The mighty Legion had no alternative but to project the critically wounded Mon-El into the Phantom Zone to save the hero from himself. So what she says is that they put him in the Phantom Zone one time, he got out, and then there was some kind of thing with his serum. He decided he was going to kill himself, and they put him in the Phantom Zone again.
I'm going to have to look.
Phantom Girl and Tellus had to enter the Phantom Zone and physically force Mon-El to submit against his will to attempts to save his life. And they gave him an injection while he was restrained by Ultra Boy and Tellus. So it's shit where Tellus was involved. If Tellus was involved, I don't know when this happened. It had to have happened in the Baxter series or afterwards.
Tales. Well, couldn't it have happened in Tales?
That's true. It could have happened in Tales. I don't remember what happened in Tales.
Maybe that did happen. God damn it.
And it goes on in the second page to talk about like the emotional and psychological torment that Shadowlass was going through by being involved romantically with this guy. And it says, after that point, when Tellus and Ultra Boy injected him with a new serum to fix him, it wasn't the end of the battering, the psychological battering that Shadowlass was subjected to.
That is scandalous.
He was still suffered from violent mood swings and long sullen periods of silence, but Shadowlass's torment would grow far worse after the subsequent unexpected death of Mon-El's close friend Superboy. After that tragedy, Mon-El's obsessive suicidal behavior seemed to take on an entirely new scope, totally eclipsing whatever geniality remained a part of his nature, a grim foreshadowing of things to come. Makes it seem like Mon-El has more going on after he gets fucked up by the time trapper, I guess. Well, she says after Superboy dies. So somewhere between when Superboy dies in issue 38 and when Mon-El gets fucked up by the time trapper in 50, that whole year, a year to us, I don't know if it's a year in the comics. Yeah, he's a suicidal, mood swinging nutcase, really hard to live with. Anyway, that's what this text page is in this. It just explains that Mon-El was kind of fucked up, I guess, is the main gist of this excerpt from the Beretta West unofficial biography of Mon-El.
Kind of scandalously implying that he might be abusive towards Shadowlass, kind of seems.
Emotionally abusive.
Yeah, but the language she's using, it seems like she's... What is she... Did she use the word battered?
Yeah, she does. It says psychological battering.
I know, but it's kind of like
it's kind of loaded terms.
Right.
I mean, yeah, nobody should be psychologically battering their romantic partner or any other human.
Right.
But yeah, it maybe Mon-El was the victim, the dude who was forced to be in the Phantom Zone for 1,000 years and not somebody else. I don't know. Like, I don't know who is the victim in this scenario. If, like, I don't think he was ever saying, Shadowlass, you cannot leave me. I don't think he did that. I don't know. This wasn't, I don't remember the
comics. Don't know. I mean, but then there's something about, like, they seem like the dysfunctional couple of the Legion. Like, she's cutting her finger off for him and...
Yeah, but that's like some kind of, that's not even a thing between them. That's some kind of religious shit that she's been indoctrinated to, you know? He even said, I wish you hadn't done that. You shouldn't have done that.
I know.
he was knocked out when she did that, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes him seem like the rational person in the relationship,
That's
and
true.
she's kind
That's
of
true.
the cuckoo one.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to tell. Who knows what happens behind closed doors?
Right. Right.
But yeah, like the cutting off the finger part while he's sedated, that doesn't seem like something she did because of some psychological battering.
I'm just saying, if I woke up and my girlfriend had cut her finger off for me, I would be looking for the exit.
Totally. What if she controlled your life support system?
That would not be good.
It would be difficult to find the exit door.
Right, right. Maybe she doesn't want him to get well because then he could get away. So she's going to the worst doctors and
Yeah,
hanging out in places with red suns and
that's like the plot
got
of
some
Phantom
putting a little
Thread. Did you ever see that
put it
movie?
putting a little lead in his drinks.
Oh man. Oh
And
boy. Oh, you know what? There was something I wanted to talk about on this issue 4. Shit, I forgot all about it.
what was it?
Just the idea that imagine that instead of Monel, they used Superboy. To me, it seemed like you could have easily, at least within the first handful of pages, and the whatever the little prologue thing at the end of the last issue,
Mm-hmm.
use Superboy instead of Monel. Like his grave explodes, and
Right.
it's Superboy who goes and confronts the time trapper. Like that makes a lot more sense in a way
Yeah.
because they had this whole big thing where Superboy dies,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then like yeah, sure, this is the guy who gets resurrected out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
because like in those earlier time trapper things with the Baxter number 50 and
Mm-hmm.
Legionnaires 3 and Cosmic Boy,
Mm-hmm.
it's not Mon-El who is the uh, time trapper's mortal enemy.
Right.
It starts out with in Legionnaires 3, it's time trapper versus the founders of the Legion.
Right.
And then it's time trapper versus Cosmic Boy. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
time trapper versus Superboy, I guess, to a degree, is kind of how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Mon-El is sort of an afterthought. It's like he's, in a way, the reason they used him is because he's just the last thing, last man standing. Like if
Right.
Superboy's dead, well, we realize that Mon-El had to have also been created by the time trapper, and that's kind of the logic there. But like
Yeah.
if
I mean,
they
it
hadn't
makes
had
more
these,
sense.
yeah, if they hadn't had this editorial interference,
Right.
you could have just used Superboy in this
Right.
whole issue of number 4 to show up and you know have his like second coming of Jesus moment
Right.
and show up, kill his father, and then
Right.
restart the universe. You didn't even need it to be Mon-El, except that Mon-El has like this relationship with a human, which is kind of cool, and you can add a little pathos to that.
Right.
Because there's no Lana Lang in the 30th century or Lois or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like that's what I was thinking as I read the first couple of pages. Like, yeah, this could have been Superboy. It might have been an interesting story to have it be Superboy instead of Mon-El. What do you think?
I would love that. I love Pocket or Superboy, but I think he had already been crossed off. Like with this issue, all Superman stuff is banned, but I think he was basically banned a year and a half earlier. Like they probably couldn't have used him if they wanted to. I don't know. Maybe since it's one issue though, maybe they could have. I mean, if Mon-El's also crossed off, they brought him back for this one issue. They could have brought Superboy back one last time. It would make things a little less complicated since Valor is kind of the center of things afterwards, even though he's not there.
Yeah, I mean, as I was reading it, I think I knew that Superboy was off limits, but like even as you read it, it's like, oh, the whole reason they're using Mon-El is because they can't use Superboy, right?
Right, right, right.
But it would have been a more um, I don't know, like
It'd be a better finale for Superboy than what he got
yeah,
like a year
exactly.
and a half ago, where he
Yeah,
got
like thinking about it like
doctored
that,
down.
it would have been a much more dynamic, kind of dramatic
Yeah.
send off, I guess.
Hmm.
If like Time Trapper's like, now is my time to revive my invulnerable vessel, and I can start
Kill him.
my badness over again, and then
Hmm.
it doesn't work because the goodness in Superboy is still there.
Right.
Superboy fights back against him and kills him.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's like a good ending to the Death of
Mhm.
Superboy comic.
Yeah,
And like
for sure.
reading it, knowing this behind the scenes stuff is like the only reason it's not that is because somebody said no, it has to be, you can't use this guy. And so they just use a carbon copy of him. And it also like it's I'm not saying this is a bad comic. This is one of my favorite ones. I really like this.
Yeah.
But like reading it this time around, like this is the first time I ever like imagined what it would be like if this was just like the whatever the glory days. They could still do whatever they wanted. Like, yeah, this should have
Yeah.
been a Superboy comic, and then Superboy, he rises from his grave and he goes and he like I don't know what he would do. Like he would probably still go to Brainiac 5, but
Right.
like does he go and he meet up with Triplicate Girl and and he's like, you're the only one of these people who ever really understood me. Will you help me? I'm here naked in your bedroom, bouncing boys in the other room, don't tell them, and then they
Yeah.
go and they go talk to Brainiac 5, and there's already kind of a like in the same way that there's a relationship between Brainiac 5 and Shadowlass, there's also a relationship between Brainiac 5 and Duo Damsel that they established where he gave her his force field belt before he left the team.
Yeah.
And like they're also early Legionnaires on the team and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I don't know. It just seems like, yeah, these are some neat possibilities that they, I don't know, just never got to explore. It's like this is the obvious way to do this story, except that somebody
Hmm.
said no, 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 you can't use X, Y, and Z characters, and so it has to be these substitute people, and it just like from then on, it's like uh, substitute people, and it's like they
Right.
have to scramble to be like, well, who is Supergirl now? Who's Jimmy Olsen now? On and on and on.
Right. Right. Who's Lana?
I don't know. Like who's Insect Queen? I don't know who took that place.
Mm,
I don't think they got around to explaining that or even thinking about it. I bet that was in a letters page somewhere.
I think there was a second Insect Queen. I think she was more grotesque.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
More grotesque than the Lana Insect Queen, where it's a disgusting bug with a Lana head.
It was just kind of cute though.
Uh-huh. Yeah, just a pretty face with an ant body.
Right.
I don't think they ever really got around to that. They
Right.
they just kind of conveniently ignored Pete Ross, Jimmy Olsen, and Lana Lang as the honorary and reserve Legionnaires.